subject matter jurisdiction, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks, my previous record on that stand has not really been proper
I just wanted to state that for the record.
It's too bad there's not people in here to enjoy that bird because it's really good. Hey, welcome back, y'all. So, I'm gonna try to catch everybody up as to where we're at right now. Let me make sure we get this right here. We are creeping into, if I'm not mistaken, day 5 of the day 5 of this criminal proceeding against Darrell Brooks Jr., who, as we all know, drove through the Waukesha Parade, Christmas Parade last year, killing 6 people and critically injuring dozens of others. Mr. Brooks here is deciding that he's going to go pro se, meaning he's going to defend himself, which, to his credit, has been, for the most part, pretty intelligent. I mean, it's infuriating and walks in circles and does things that just drives us all nuts. But end of the day,
thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Gishin, hey, what's up? But at the end of the day, he's doing what I think he's got his game plan, right?
When
what he's trying to do is
unexpectedly broke prior to the lunch hour. Mr. Knapp was on the witness stand.
I'm not sure who Mr. Knapp is.
He was being cross-examined. Sir, you may continue.
But so Darrell Brooks right now he's doing the cross-examination of the witnesses.
I'd like to apologize to the court. I'm not sure where I left off at.
Also, stop giggling, man. The way this dude does stuff like that just drives me nuts. You know what I mean? So I'm turning the volume down on them real quick. One of the things to keep in mind is that he just previously today tried to call. This is him trying to get his notes together out of the boxes and boxes of his self-appointed attorney, professionalism here. He called the state of the plaintiff. He called the plaintiff to the stand, which was just the entity, state of Wisconsin, which they denied. So he's trying to say he has the right to face his accusers. And what he's going for is a mistrial, saying that they're not there to actually face him. So anyway, that's where we're at.
What date that was?
We'll talk more a little bit.
I believe it would have been the 23rd. My daughter was released from the hospital after a stay overnight, which would have been the 22nd, and I believe it was the 23rd. I could be mistaken on that.
Do you recall if that was just to make arrangements for the interview at that time?
The recollection I have was actually being questioned about the incident.
You don't recall making arrangements to be interviewed and then approximately 4 or 5 days after that actually being interviewed?
Again, I don't recall the exact date. In my mind, it was the day after we got home from the hospital. And yes, arrangements were made to meet with the detective.
Do you recall being interviewed on November 29th of 2021?
Again, I don't recall the exact date.
His questioning, man, is just so redundant, and he goes through like he thinks he has a game plan. I feel, but like it's just
you made reference to Clinton Street being a cross street that was close by. Would that be fair to say?
That is correct.
Do you recall if Clinton Street had any barricades?
I do not recall.
Did you go down Clinton Street at that moment?
Yes, I did, as stated.
Did you recall any law enforcement being present at the Clinton Street side crossing, I guess?
Yes, there was a law enforcement officer on the south side of the street, and as I mentioned before, he helped save a lot of lives by pushing our children back.
Appreciate the extra commentary.
Oh, a little snarky there, huh? Sorry, his child spent a night in the hospital because of you. So yeah, saved a lot of extra lives that you didn't get to take.
Do you recall describing the driver as an African American male with long hair and facial hair?
I remember describing the driver of the vehicle that I made eye contact with as a black male with facial hair. I don't necessarily
to be clear,
recall.
That's what he looked like when he was arrested.
I have the summary
prior to cutting his hair and
right
shaving his
here
beard.
of the interview that you gave with law enforcement on November the 29th of 2021.
I'm going to go ahead and read that.
Reading from that summary.
Your Honor, I'm going to object again for the same reason I objected before. This is in a statement or a supplement by Detective Jeff Adent, A-D-E-N-T, from the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department, in which he met up with this witness. This witness provided information to the detective.
I understand. I don't need the full
Okay.
explanation. I'll just sustain the objection as to the form of the question. I know you didn't fully get it out, but I think I know where you were going, so please rephrase.
Yeah. Again, it's a summary of a statement, so that person is hearsay. They'd have to be there to actually give a recount of the entirety of the statement,
reference
because it wasn't his
to the statement that I referred to about the long hair. If I was able to show you, would it bring any recollection of what you may have said during that interview?
No, if I stated it at that time, then that was my recollection at that time. 11 months later, my recollection of the statement is that I made eye contact.
I'm not referring to that statement. I'm referring to the statement that
he wants to hear nothing
reads,
that has
David,
to do.
Or yes. Or wait, let me back up.
Yeah, please back up. Share the stream, y'all, if you would, please. We're going to do a little talk hereafter. They're going to cut early today, actually, because there's a tornado warning in
where there's
that
some
area
confusion
in the Midwest area.
With your name in this report.
Not that I'm aware of.
Is there confusion with your name?
It looks like the officer that was taking the report got a
Byron, my guy.
The name.
Thank you, man, for showing up every time,
that's
man.
not a question. He doesn't have the report in front of him, so please make sure you ask the question.
Do you recall
contributions make it all possible, bro? Thank you so much, man.
Reading from the summary. Describing the driver as an African American male with long hair.
As stated, as I sit today, I remember describing the driver as a black male with facial hair and very wide eyes. If I stated that at the time, that was my recollection at the time. As I sit here today, I cannot state that I recall having or seeing long hair.
Nor do you have to, because you gave that
Would
statement
it be fair
already.
to say that
Byron, seriously.
What I'm reading from is accurate statements made by you to the law enforcement officer?
Objection.
He doesn't know the entirety
of
of
the reason I mentioned.
There's a lack of foundation as to the question.
I know
so
Dan,
I'll
right?
Sustain it, and if you are able to.
He says grounds. What are the grounds? Like, shut up and let her explain why.
Show the witness.
It doesn't matter, bro.
Statements.
It's the officer took the statement. He didn't write that himself.
Maybe that
this is where it doesn't even matter.
Bring some recollection back of what was said in the interview.
It's inconsequential.
If you would give the statement to the bailiff, who can then give it to the state. I don't know if you have it electronically.
Somebody keep in mind, guys.
Document camera.
He has objected.
All right.
I would say like over 100 times to every single
thing.
thing.
To the witness again, I'm going to object. If he's using it to refresh recollection, that's fine. But this witness says it does not refresh his recollection. I'm objecting to any questions after.
There you go.
Okay.
I object to that because.
Hold on. Let's show the
I object to your objection.
To the witness, is there a particular paragraph you want to direct his attention to, Mr. Brooks?
I think by simply stating something, you're objecting to an objection because you're already stating that it should
the
not be
driver
objected
was
to.
an African American male with long hair.
All right, so sir, just take a moment to review that When
And
you're
again,
done
I'm gonna
reviewing
show you this
it,
one.
Turn it over.
This guy,
and then Mr.
right here.
Brooks will ask you some.
That's what he
follow-up
looked like when he was
questions.
arrested
For the
after
record,
the
I
scene
don't
below
consent
it,
to
which is
being
where he
called
drove
that
through a
name,
crowd of people.
For the record, third party to the matter.
I'm gonna leave that up in the corner there so you guys remember who he is. That's his mugshot from the day he was arrested. I pissed some people off. I got a comment earlier about how they're like, "Wow, we really thought you were, working both sides and you were open to both sides." Like, there's not two sides here. There's not two sides. This man killed 6 people and dozens others were injured, and now he's smugly sitting up, representing himself pro se, cross-examining and calling witnesses as if he has a case, which he doesn't. He's just trying to get the case thrown out, which means he's trying to get off of the
From
hook.
reading
You know what I
that
mean?
summary
That
of
hook is the fact that he
the interview that you
killed
gave
people.
with law enforcement, do you recall stating that the driver was an African American male with long hair?
I recall stating what I stated before.
He said,
that
"Do I look
was
like
a
I have long
black
hair?"
male
No.
with facial hair and white eyes. I don't recall stating long hair, but
Would it be fair to say that the summary that is in front of you states that that's what you said?
It would be hearsay.
Grounds.
Exactly.
I'm stating directly what it says on the paperwork.
It's still hearsay, Mr. Brooks.
Because it's a third party.
Objection is
You guys, we're gonna be
sustained.
great at this whole
Next question.
Is it
We're gonna
fair
be
to say that that's what
versed in law by the end of this.
That's hearsay. So,
is hearsay when it's right there for him to read?
Mr. Brooks, I direct your attention to the hearsay statute,
Hearsay
right,
meaning.
for a definition in 908.01, and the rule in 908.02.
So it's not a fair.
Sustained. Next question.
We'll put that in the comments here. So hearsay is learn to pronounce.
Do you recall if the driver had hair? Any hair whatsoever?
I recall seeing facial hair.
Information received from
Any
other
hair on their
people
head.
that one cannot adequately sustain.
I don't recall at the moment as we sit today,
That's fancy.
picturing exactly that if I saw hair or if I didn't.
Any reason why you wouldn't be able to see the driver's head?
My eyes were locked on a vehicle that was driving at a high rate of speed
He's going to object. Watch.
with the person driving the vehicle's eyes extremely wide. And then at that moment, my
Attention to.
full attention went to my children where that vehicle was driving at a very high rate of speed.
So it would be fair to say that because you keep making reference to the eyes. So would it be fair to say then that because you were so fixated on the eyes that it would be hard to tell any other features of the driver?
No.
I'm stating what I saw: wide eyes, black male, facial hair.
Would it being so fixated on the eyes, would that in any way make it hard for you to see any other facial description?
I'm not sure your definition of hard. I'm stating what I saw.
Yep. There you go. Thank you, man. Thank you. That's, again, it's his interpretation of what is difficult or hard. Was it hard to see all the people that you drove through when your eyes
Do
were?
you recall if there was anything
not.
on the driver's head, a hat or anything of that nature?
I don't recall.
You stated that it was an African American male. Do you recall a skin complexion?
I do.
Was it a dark skin complexion?
It was.
As like how dark? He's gonna go for how dark was he? Was he like dark? He's about to go in a whole different direction, man. Yeah. Peter, that's crazy. This will be considered a mass murder
Would it be fair to
when
say
the trial
that
gets to a conclusion, and they have to sit here and explain themselves to
who you identified
this man
today
who killed
does
their
not
friends
have
and
a
family.
dark complexion?
I guess it depends upon the definition of dark.
And yes, he is.
What is your definition of dark? Because in
Your
all
definition,
fairness,
you
said dark skin.
You
So
are
what would be
not
your
white,
definition
is what
of
he's
dark
going for.
skin?
He's trying to go for like a racist thing. Pro se is what he's written. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Dark skin as present on my interaction with black males in the past.
So every black male that you've had an interaction with was dark skinned?
Again, it depends. There's different complexions of dark, and it depends upon what complexion or what your definition of dark is.
There you go.
I'm asking your definition because you said dark skin.
Objection, dude. Come on. This is ridiculous.
The point has been made.
Asked and
witness
answered.
identified the defendant, Darrell Brooks, as a person driving the car. I think he's asked the question about dark skin. I think that this has been asked and answered.
Objection.
I'm going to
Exact-
sustain
Tina.
the objection as to the form of the question. I believe the way
You
it's
kind of had
asked is
your complexion
argumentative.
and your same facial
You may
structure.
rephrase if you so
No,
choose.
it's you.
May my objection be noted that I do not identify by that name, nor do I know anybody by that name. I don't consent to being called that name.
Noted. Question, please.
Can also be noted in the record that nobody cares that you don't consent to being called Darrell Brooks Jr. or that
Have you ever
don't know
had
anybody by the
any
name.
other interactions with any black males that were not considered dark skinned by your definition?
I don't understand your question.
Have you had any previous interactions with African Americans that were not dark skinned? Grounds.
He's not talking
Overruled,
about
it
his
relates to his
nationality.
identification. He may answer.
He's talking about the
As
color of your
stated
skin.
before, my interactions with black males before, there are different levels of complexion and color tones, darker versus lighter. And I have interacted with black males before that have been both lighter and darker skin tones. Yes.
Would it be fair to say that you didn't give that clarification when asked before?
He wasn't asked
I
that
don't
question
understand your
before.
question.
Exactly.
Would it be fair to say that you did not give that clarification when asked the same question before?
He just asked the same question. So how does that clarify the
What
question?
clarification are you referring to?
You strictly said the skin tone. You came to the
right
conclusion that it was dark skin based on your interactions with African American males before. Would it be fair to say that that's what you testified to?
Yeah, Peter, he's on a grandstand right now.
I,
He's just
I
showing
can
his,
identify the skin tone color is what I stated, and the person that was driving the vehicle had a darker skin tone.
Yeah, Peter, I see where you're at, man. This guy right now. See, the thing is, they're going to cut early because of tornado warning, and his concurrence with or whatever he agrees with the judge.
Paperback that he has.
He agrees with the judge in cutting court early because the tornado might interrupt their broadcasting ability because he knows it's televised and he needs it to be televised. And he was like, "Well, if it's not televised, we shouldn't be able to do this." All of this is for the TV. He's doing all this for show to drag it out, hoping for a mistrial, which he's not going to get. And he's doing exactly what he can to just be, get a book written about him or something ridiculous, like how the man represented himself. You know what I mean? To be clear, again, I want to make sure that everyone knows the upper right-hand corner is his mugshot when he got arrested, right? That's why he's questioning all his facial hair, long hair, all that. Shaved his head, shaved his beard, put on a suit, which he wasn't wearing for the first couple of days. He stayed in his prison, his jail.
Your recollection of
killed 6 people.
The
Killed
interview
6 people.
with
An
law
8-year-old
enforcement
up to grandparents, and dozens of others were critically injured, like shattered pelvises, detached kidneys.
Do you recall stating that you
children
don't vividly recall any acceleration?
I do recall stating that.
Which is why all this is so infuriating for the people being questioned, because they were the ones directly affected by what he did. Directly. Like, this man had a child in the hospital for a night, They don't have a death penalty in Wisconsin. I know people have been asking me that. There's no death penalty.
And just for clarification,
so he's looking at
for the
6
record,
life
you did not
sentences
see
and
the
over
vehicle
900
strike
years of all the
anyone once
charges.
it was past your location.
When it passed me, I saw the vehicle strike my daughter.
The location where you
The front of your
at,
car.
you made reference to being near that intersection corner, I think it was.
So
Once it was past that location is what I'm referring to.
right. So after the vehicle struck my daughter and then past that location, I ran to my daughter as stated, and I did not see, other than the vehicle swerve back towards Main Street, the vehicle strike another human being.
So you did not see it, just for clarification, because that was a lot of commentary.
That is
Clarification for the record, you did not see it strike anyone else once it was past that location where you and your family were.
That is correct.
There are going to be, I mean, I don't know what the witness list is, but there could be dozens and dozens of witnesses that are going to come in and testify and be cross-examined and
No further questions.
by this person.
Any redirect?
So I think,
Thank you.
okay,
Sir, you may step down.
this is the father of one of the victims of the parade attack. I'm gonna try not to be too hardcore on my views of this individual, but it is definitely a.
So, ladies and
Hard not to
gentlemen
do.
of the jury, I have made a determination that today we are going to break early, just given all of the weather issues that happened earlier today. Frankly, including the need on my part to check on my house and other things. I just felt it best, just given all of that and the disruption, that we would break for the day. I do want you,
Joy, it's at the bottom of the
as
screen
you
there.
go back home today, to look at your schedules for the next 2 days, because I may keep us here a little bit later to make up for some of the lost time, at least tomorrow. So just let the civilian jury bailiffs know tomorrow when you come in. I do want to read to you the instructions that I've been providing to you
Bottom of the screen.
regarding not starting your deliberations and
So that guy and
extra
that
research,
guy,
et
down in the
cetera.
top right
So,
corner, and that guy.
do
Same
not
dude.
begin your deliberations and discussion of the case until all the evidence is presented and I have instructed you on the law. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else until your final deliberations in the jury room. This order is not limited to face-to-face conversations. It also extends to all forms of electronic communications. Do not use any electronic devices such as a mobile phone or computer, text or
Okay.
instant messaging or social networking sites to send or receive any information about this case or your experience as a juror. If you come in contact with the parties, the lawyers, interpreters, or witnesses, do not speak with them. For their part, the parties, lawyers, interpreters, and witnesses
really?
will not contact or speak with the jurors. Do not listen to any conversation about this case. Do not research any information that you personally think might be helpful to you in understanding the issues presented. Do not investigate this case on your own or visit the scene either in person or by any electronic means. Do not read any newspaper reports or listen to any news reports on radio, television, over the internet, or any other electronic application or tool about this trial. Do not consult dictionaries, computers, electronic applications, social media, the internet, or other reference materials for additional information. Do not seek information regarding the public records of any party or witness in this case. Any information you may obtain outside the courtroom could be misleading, inaccurate, or incomplete. Relying on this information is unfair because the parties would not have the opportunity to refute, explain, or correct it. Do not communicate with anyone about this trial or your experience as a juror while you are serving on this jury. Do not use a computer, cell phone, or other electronic device, including personal wearable electronics, applications, or tools with communication capabilities to share any information about this case. For example, do not communicate by telephone, blog post, email, text message, instant message, social media post, or in any other way on or off the computer. Do not permit anyone to communicate with you about this matter, either in person, electronically, or by any other means. If anyone does so despite your telling them not to, you should report that to me. I appreciate that it is tempting when you go home to discuss this case with another member of your household, but you may not do so. This case must be decided by you, the jurors, based on the evidence presented in the courtroom. People not serving on this jury have not heard the evidence, and it is improper for them to influence your deliberations and decision in this case. After the trial is completed, you are free to communicate with anyone in any manner. These rules are intended to assure that jurors remain impartial throughout the trial. If any juror has
Can you
reason to
imagine trying to be
believe
impartial
that
if
another
you're
juror has
from
violated these rules,
Waukesha
you should
County,
report that
like,
to me.
or from
If jurors do
Waukesha,
not
that
comply
area,
with these rules, it could result in a new trial
and doing your
involving
best.
additional time and significant expense
Man.
to the parties and the taxpayers. You are to decide the case solely on the evidence offered and received.
Yeah, I know.
at
Law and
trial.
Order
With
and
that, you
Court
are
TV are on
excused for the day. We'll
two
see you
different.
tomorrow
They're
morning.
offset. Their timing is a little different. So, but now we're now. So, okay.
Michael?
Okay, so I don't know if this will work. I can do this and have me in here at the same time. No. So this is the guy. This is the trial of Darrell Brooks Jr. This is what we're watching right now. For those that are unaware, that's Darrell Brooks Jr. right there, who doesn't identify as Darrell Brooks Jr. He said he doesn't know anybody by that name. He doesn't identify that name by that name. He's not that person. Is what he's been going for, you know. And now he's trying to go for this whole angle of saying, like, was it really me you saw in the vehicle driving? There were
tomorrow at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
I'm going to check with the
6
jurors, and if
o'clock
anything
Pacific
changes,
Standard.
we'll let the parties know. But otherwise,
8 a.m.
plan on
tomorrow,
being
we'll
here
be
at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
But we're not going anywhere just yet, so type for something.
I have to. I won't know. We'll do that off the record. I don't know if Dawn Maldonado stayed or not, but if not, we'll contact her and we'll be in touch with you
Just want to know what they're
very
saying.
quickly so that we can tell you if that witness needs to come back tomorrow or another day. Because it might not be her. They could turn to one of our
Yeah, I don't
other
know why he's still wearing
interpreters.
masks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We are in recess.
Man, Kelly Bradbury, you got family in Florida. You're in Florida, but you got family in Kenosha. You got, between people would wonder about their affiliations with you right now, because it seems like you seem to bring the thunder and tornadoes, apparently, hurricanes, all that stuff. So, no, I'm just not saying you are, but I hope your family's okay and that you're doing all right. I got all my friends and family and friends of my Kenosha family and everyone there is. Hope you guys are staying safe. Get into a basement somewhere. It's wild, man. It's it's nuts that those tornadoes up there. Those tornado warnings are no joke. Like, they come in, big sirens go off, and it's pretty terrifying. But back to what we're talking about here. So Darrell Brooks Jr. Doesn't identify as Darrell Brooks Jr. Wants not to be doesn't want to be considered a citizen of the United States. He's going for what's called a sovereign citizen. That being said, what that is, here you go, is a member of a political movement or just a group of people who oppose taxation, question the legitimacy of government, and believe that they are not subject to the law or courts. So what he's trying to say is that he shouldn't even be tried in a court in the United States here, because he doesn't consider himself a citizen of the United States. He considers himself sovereign. And I'm pretty sure that's not going to fly either. He dropped his insanity plea earlier, so now he's going pro se. He's going to go ahead and represent. So I know he realized he's not going to get that. They deemed him perfectly competent for trial. Now he's going for he's hustling for a mistrial. He's trying to discredit all the witnesses. The issue is, the real problem is these witnesses that he's trying to discredit, these people that he's badgering while they're on the stand. He hit with this vehicle. He hit them. Like, he hit this man's child who spent a night in the hospital with his car. He watched him do it, and then he's questioning what he really saw. You hear him saying, like, well, you looked into his eyes. Did you not see the rest of his face? Did he have ears? What kind of ears did he have? Would you say his ears were connected at the lobe or not? That kind of stuff. And the man saying, like, hey, man, I saw you driving your car into a crowd at a high rate of speed. I saw you hit my child. And then I lost track of you after that one, because I was busy worrying about keeping my baby alive, that type of thing. And that's really the carnage that it was when I got down there that night. Right after it happened, I went from Kenosha to Waukesha, and they were still pulling bodies out of the street. Like, there was still, strollers and shoes and mittens and you name it, like children's gloves and coats and blood in the street. Like, this was no, he didn't veer in, veer out. He drove multiple city blocks at a high rate of speed, dodging other vehicles and accelerating through crowds of people. This is what this man did. That's what he did. This Darrell Brooks Jr., who doesn't identify as Darrell Brooks Jr. No, he's never made any claims to be of any kind of native descent. Kelly Bradbury's asking is he indigenous? Because they are sovereign if they are on reservations. Didn't know anyone could claim to be sovereign. You can claim to be sovereign. I guess there's a filing fee and something along those lines. So let me see. Let's ask the old Googles. And what does it take to be a sovereign citizen? Let me see here. I could just ask Google. Hey Google, how do you become a sovereign citizen?
Sorry, I don't have any information about that.
Google, dropping a ball, man. What does it take to be a sovereign? What does it take? Okay. So the meaning of sovereign, obviously I already wrote there. Well, here we go. I mean, that's just going to take too much time. I'm not trying to waste you guys' time looking that up. Yep, following you, seeing my oldest son was supposed to be there, so thanks for the hard coverage at night. Yeah, Kelly, you're very welcome. Yeah, so there is a tornado warning. So mind you, what they're talking about right now is okay, and here we go. We're gonna pull this up and take a look at it real fast. So you have an idea of why they cut the trial short today. It's supposed to go until 5 o'clock Central Standard. Before everybody attacks Barry here, he's a friend and he jokes, but he might get put on timeout. Might just have to time you out, brother. The tornado warning has expired. Okay, well, what they were talking about was this right here, just so you know what we are talking about. Where we at? This one? Oh, there's one here. So what do we got here? Ooh. So yeah, we're looking at the touchdown drive by Pleasant Prairie right there, off of the 32 and 165, and that was just recently. And I don't have any volume on this thing, so that's what it is. That's how it's still shot. That's right. So as it's moving, it looks like if you guys are in that Summers, Racine, Kenosha area, be on the lookout, because you're definitely in the eye of the tornado, as they say. They are not on lunch right now, so they've taken a break. I'm showing you guys this, so you know that we are still covering the trial of Darrell Brooks Jr. They closed early for weather. Yeah, Mary Lou, thank you. Terry, they are not on lunch. No, we're stopping for the day to allow people a chance to take care of their families, and yeah, April. Yeah, this is happening right by you. This is where the tornado is. So if you're inside, look outside. You might see some radical weather. Yeah, so a breaking news sticker. You're right. I'll get that set up here in a minute. I do have this though. I don't know if you guys saw this one. This is my new intro, which I was working on. Didn't get a chance to finish it. Check this one. That was lovely. That just feels good. Kansas, Stephanie, man, you are not playing around in Kansas. Tornado's no joke out there. I mean, that's what's going on with that. So there's a tornado warning. Someone's saying the tornado warning has passed. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but it is still there. So, but I want to give you guys that are just jumping in an idea of what we're talking about here with this Darrell Brooks Jr. trial. Okay, so and then, man, there's a lot of stuff happening, man. We got school shootings that we're going to be covering. We got I mean, things that happened, you know, the Crumley case, there's things that are like, I mean, it's really terrible. The things that are going on all around the nation right now. And it's incredibly sad. I believe I have it here for you guys, which is going to be, this was, so this was Darrell Brooks Jr.'s. Let's go back into here real fast. Let me show you guys this real quick. So, this is Darrell Brooks' mom, and she was basically saying that this is talking about how he ran over his girlfriend just before this happened and was out on bail. And she's saying that, you know, she shouldn't have bailed him out, that, you know, it was too early. You know, that he shouldn't have been out on bail. I think is what she says. We'll double check. So let's see what she has to say right quick here. You think he should have been released at the time?
I don't think they should have released him, even though I did post the bail. But I post the bail because Erica Patterson, his girlfriend, I asked her personally, I called her personally, and I asked her, did he deliberately run over you? And I told her what the police told me. I'm asking you, did he deliberately do that? She told me, no, that was not deliberate.
This is him being arrested. We're going to go back to that video here in just a second. So this is, so he drives through the crowd. He evades the police. They shoot some shots at him. Nothing hits him. He parks his vehicle, backs into a driveway with all the damage on the front end for the road to see. Then they go on this this hunt for him. And I was there from the streets. It was freezing cold. Like, you'll see him rubbing his arms. He's got, I don't think he even has shoes on. No jacket, nothing. Hops out of the car. And then he goes to this person's door, rings their doorbell, and he's making these wild claims that he left his wallet in their house and that he's waiting for the Uber, but he needs to call the Uber. But that's not how Ubers work. You know, it's not an 800 number. And this guy, apparently, I don't know if his name's Daniel Ryder, but maybe we'll reach out to him and see if we can talk to him. He lets him in the house. I think he even gave him a sandwich or something like that. Didn't know what was going on. And then the police, I don't know if they just figure out where he's at, or maybe on the low key, that dude was like, hey, there's this guy in my house. I don't know what it's all about, but he seems crazy. And I'm afraid that he might go off. So maybe come here and help me out. So this is him being arrested.
Hey, my ID. Huh? Whoa.
26, 500 block of Elizabeth, 126.
Did he know this guy? Absolutely not. Okay.
Tom, with those opening statements.
Yeah, he said, do you know this guy? He said, absolutely not, man, which is crazy to me. But his mom, so what his mom says is she bailed him out for $1,000, right? So he's out on bail for running his girlfriend over with his car. She says, I don't believe they should have released him, but I bailed him out. Well, this is where the issue comes in. In these situations where you have, now his ex-girlfriend, they'd been together for a long time, apparently. She moved to this area with him or for him somehow, and their story is more involved. They had broken up. He had confronted her at a park. And in this park confrontation, they got into a fight. He had slapped her around a little bit. I can't even do it. I just said it. He slapped her around. He hit her a couple times. She was banged up. And you'll see that in the screenshot of one of the last videos that I posted. And she's got a friend that she lived at a shelter with. She was living in a women's shelter, and her bunkmate, she's a beast, man. I'll give her that, dude. That woman, what was her name? Corey Runkle. She said chested up with Darrell Brooks here. He rolled up. They called the police on him because he was beating her up. He takes off. He comes. They describe him. You know what's going on. This is the day of the parade attack, mind you. After he had gotten out of jail for hitting her with his car and roughing her up, right? So all of this goes down. They get into a fight, like a physical altercation. He and this girl, Corey. He slaps her, doesn't knock her down. She gets back up. They're boxing it out in some way, shape, or form. They give a report of that. The girlfriend is still in that state of mind, that battered syndrome, where she's trying to get back in the car with him. And her friend Corey is like, no, you're not doing that. You're not getting in the car with this guy. Like, and she knew too much. You know, they talk. They're bunkmates at the shelter, so they've shared a lot of stories, and she understands a lot more of what's going on. You know, and those people, you know, you're good friends. If you're going through a breakup, or you have issues with your partner, or whatever might be going on, you share a lot of the gritty details when they're happening, and then you forget. And so my mother always said this. She was always like, never invite your family into the bedroom. Sounds weird, I know. But what she meant by that was, don't invite your family into the deeper intimacy of the problems you have with your partner, because you'll heal and move forward. You guys will make amends and move on, because that's part of what being a partner in a relationship is. Your family doesn't get that same opportunity, right? And they don't get a chance to have that same sit down, we're good now moment. So they just harbor those feelings and that ill will towards this person. So this woman, Corey Runkle, as her bunkmate in the shelter, holds on to all that same animosity, right? Well, what they say, how does it go? The axe forgets the chop, but the tree doesn't. That's just a direct quote from something recently. But the axe here being Darrell Brooks, you forget, you like disregard the things you've done to people, and he's doing that in this trial with all these people that he ran through. He's even greeted them with, like, well, like, say, start off with saying good afternoon. Like, how good of an afternoon is it that these people have to sit there and stare at you while you ask like ridiculous questions and try to like get me to upset the testimony that I gave before, after you almost murdered my child. So back to Corey Runkle. So they give these statements, and then while the police are there after the fight that he got in with Corey, while that policeman is taking that statement, the radio is going off about what's happening down the street, where Darrell Brooks took off from that and is now just angry driving, talking about, he said he was going to, he said he doesn't swear, but he was like, so he said, F you, I'm going to F and get you, I'm going to kill you, bitch, is kind of how it worked out, is what he said in the statement given. And then he drives off, takes off in his car, his red SUV that everyone's described, everyone's seen, takes off, drives to this crowd of people. And the first officer, Sergeant David Weiner, when he was on the stand, he was just trying to give an account of what he heard over the radio. And it took him a while to get it out. He was getting very emotional, because he said it was the most horrific thing he's ever heard in his life. Was you could hear on the radio the sound of people screaming, and these officers that were just, 10-9. I can't remember the report. If anyone can in the comments remember what the actual code was. Of the parade that day. I had to step away. Do you have any idea of the parade that day? I wasn't at the parade itself. I went directly after. So, but yeah, it was, so anyway, and it was terrible. It was horrific. Now what I'm going to try to do here is take a look at what video we have queued up here. Here's just to give an idea of some of the people, like the injuries that were sustained here is, here's one for you. This is terrible as well.
Tom, with those opening statements just hours away now, our Elaine Rojas Castillo shares how the family of one of the victims of the parade attack is preparing to face the man accused of this crime. Wow, Elaine, what a story.
What a story indeed, Simone. Good morning. Ryan Conkey is the uncle of 12-year-old Jesselyn Torres. Jesselyn was one of dozens of people that were injured when Darrell Brooks allegedly drove his SUV through that parade. Jesselyn was seriously injured in this attack and suffered multiple injuries, including a lacerated or broken pelvis and injuries to her lungs and liver. She spent more than a week on life support before she was strong enough to breathe on her own and taken off a ventilator. The impact of that SUV also detached one of her kidneys. Ryan says that while Jesselyn is doing much better, the idea of having to potentially face the man that caused her so much pain is frustrating.
Man, can you imagine?
It's definitely a concern. It's a major concern for not just my family, but for any of the witnesses that are also victims, that, somebody who committed such a heinous crime gets to question them. Personally, I understand the process. I may not like it, but I understand it and I respect it.
Ryan says while the last 2 days of jury selection have been difficult to sit through, he and his family do plan on watching the trial from start to finish. Reporting live at the Waukesha County Courthouse, Elaine Rojas Castillo, TMJ4 News.
Well, all eyes are on Milwaukee tonight. Tomorrow they're going to be on Waukesha County, and that's where the trial against Darrell Brooks will begin, with the defendant representing himself.
Brooks is charged with killing 6 people at the Waukesha Christmas Parade last year. Bill Miston takes a look back at what got us to this point.
November 21st, 2021, 4 p.m. The Waukesha Christmas Parade kicked off. It started here at East Main and White Rock. Parade goers lined the route. The dancing grannies, marching bands, and others walked along the parade as they were cheered on. But about 30 minutes after the parade started, calls started to come in about something happening near Frame Park.
There's 2 citizens with me on Hartwell and White Rock saying that there's a fight in progress. And one of the squads go meet with where the subjects are that are claiming that this fight happened.
Less than a minute later,
Maroon Ford Escapes is blue by White Rock and Hartwell heading into the parade road. I escaped, black male, I couldn't stop it. He's going left on his horn.
Main and Barstow, Main and Gaspar.
We have multiple casualties. Main and Gaspar. We need
hear the screaming,
multiple 1052s.
The code for ambulances.
Station 4, Station 2, Station 1, Station 3, and Station 5. Unknown incident type. Downtown.
As the red SUV approached West Main in Wisconsin, running people over, witnesses said it appeared to be zigzagging, avoiding cars, but not people.
Dispatch, I shot from the moment everyone started screaming over the radio. So the car came through.
The car left the parade route, but the damage was done. 6 people were killed, dozens injured in mere minutes. The car was later found not far away, abandoned in a backyard off of Maple. The driver, Darrell Brooks, was found a half-mile away, knocking on a door. He was charged 2 days later. Bill Miston, Fox 6 News.
And our Brett Lemoyne will be covering that trial for us starting tomorrow.
So, I mean,
For the record,
let me.
I have received.
So that's so you know what's going on. That was from last year, and directly following the not directly, because one of the victims, there were 5 fatalities on scene that directly thereafter the attack, and then the young man, an 8-year-old, passed away a day later, so 2 days I think from the point of impact, after a hard battle fought in the hospital, and like that witness was saying, that victim might turn witness. I mean, he has a chance to face his accuser, as he says, right? And so that's where the people are. I think we got to be very clear about what we're looking at with this trial. It's not a trial of it's the state of Wisconsin versus Darrell Brooks Jr. So the plaintiff is the state who's taken this on for all these people in this attack, right? They're representing this criminal case. He is stating that the state of Wisconsin isn't a real entity, that they're not a real entity that's valid enough to try him, because he's, by his 6th Amendment right, he's entitled to see his to face his accusers. So, and I believe that the Sixth Amendment, I believe, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed by the nature of the case of the accusations. So the Sixth Amendment in part of the Bill of Rights, the first 10 minutes, okay, it sets a rule about how a person must be treated when accused of a crime and goes to trial, the right to a lawyer or the right to defend yourself, speedy trial, and a jury. And I believe that within that is the right to face your accuser. And here we go. Sixth Amendment provides that a person accused of a crime has the right to confront a witness against him or her in a criminal action. This includes the right to be present at the trial, which is guaranteed by the federal rules of criminal procedure, Rule 43. So let's put this up here for you guys so you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you this quick video here, and I want you to understand what we're looking at, because it's, it is. So the Sixth Amendment right there, and I'll put that up there. The Sixth Amendment provides a person accused of a crime has the right to confront a witness against him or her in a criminal action. This includes the right to be present at the trial, which is obviously what we're talking about. And it goes on. Now, so Ed says, let me say here, Wisconsin crime victim is the organization, right? Has done a great job in preparing the witnesses to handle testimony. I hope, man, and I'm sure that you got to appreciate, man, that they, hey Nicole, how you doing? But they put you can't coach. You can, when in questioning initially, you can't coach people how to answer the questions when you're giving statements. But when you're preparing for court, one of the things your attorney will do is prepare you for the questions that are going to be asked of you. And that's what attorneys do. Now, they are, and this is where this comes in, these witnesses are being called by, the witnesses that are called by the state are there to testify on behalf of the state. Now, he's able to cross-examine them, Darrell Brooks Jr., that is. Now, they're part of the preparation of the case against him. So they're able to be coached as to how to answer questions. Now, they can't, they're not going to be coached to lie or to purge themselves under testimony or under oath. But you're going to understand that Darrell Brooks is going to try to spin him up. What he's doing, and he's been doing, I'll give him this, he's done a pretty good job of just confusing things. That's what he does. He's just been confusing things, asking questions in rounds and doing all sorts of crazy, twisted things to kind of get people off, like asking about the complexion of dark and what the view of that person is of dark as in a complexion. So things that it does nothing but makes you wonder what he might mean. And then that puts a little bit of a question about where he might be going. Even though he may not be able to get there, he lets you think about that. And he keeps it very elusive. So you feel like there's this daunting presence that doesn't really exist because that presence is him. And this coward drove through a crowd of people, killing 6 of them, and now is trying to, just as you're saying there, Barbara, is trying to intimidate people while he has them on the stand. Like when he brought his ex-girlfriend onto the stand, he wished her happy birthday and made it very cordial. When Corey Runkle came on stand, he requested, because he kept getting put in timeout, mind you guys, he couldn't keep himself together. His composure was all off. So he got to get moved into a separate courtroom where he was televised and had to hold up a sign. He was holding up a sign that said, objection. Then you have to write out the objection because he couldn't keep his stuff together. And so the judge was like, you're out of here, man. You're out. You have the right to be here, but you can't disrupt the proceedings of this court. But when she came in, he asked for permission to come back into the courtroom so he could sit in front of her. And you could see, like the physical change in her. The second he came in the room and sat down, immediately she went back to this pose. And it was very, like, all right, like they were in an argument. It wasn't a witness that was just having to be questioned. It was her being questioned by him. And that's the thing. And it's a difference when it's an attorney. Brian, and so here's the thing, Brian, you said it right. So he's not an attorney, right? He's a man that's representing himself. And Brian Reinsfelder says on Facebook, I want to know who's coaching him. Someone in law is briefing him on how to stall the trial. there are so many, jailhouse attorneys, you know what I mean? Like guys that are in lockup that have been through the system multiple times, guys that are circulating through the system, guys that are just, that never left the system, or dudes that are in the system that are really intelligent. And I'm not saying that and here's the thing, I'm not downplaying Darrell Brooks Jr.'s intelligence. I think he's actually pretty smart. He's an asshole, but he's pretty smart, and a lot of assholes are smart, or just too smug to know better. But he is doing what he's doing. And so what he's doing is manipulating the case, right? But he's got somebody for the last, mind you, he's been in jail for almost a year. This was back in November 21st of last year. So we're 11 months into this. He's had a lot of time to sit down and here's the thing, he decided to go pro se, right? Which means, and this is the back end of it, and I'd have to double check this, pro se means he's representing himself. Now, that being said, he's had an attorney, right? He had an attorney or attorneys, state appointed representatives, up to a point where he decided he wanted to be self-representing. So they were coaching him through how he needed to do this case. You know what I mean? Like, here's what we're going to go for. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's what we need to accomplish. Here's our goal and checklist, our punch list for trying to accomplish, getting you either a mitigated sentencing for any of these crimes, which, like I said before, 6 life sentences, right? So if you look at his charges, which are, I'll put them up here real quick for us again. 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. Each one of those carries up to a life sentence. 61 counts of recklessly endangering safety. I think each one of those was 12 and a half years. 6 counts of hit and run involving death. I believe that was up to 25 years per. And then 2 counts of felony jumping, 2 counts of battery. In total, I'd have to find that paper again, but I think he's looking at 197 years plus 6 life sentences if he gets hit with everything. Either way, you know what I mean? Give him 1 life sentence. Who cares? 2, 3. It's more or less for the victims to be able to have the comfort of knowing that he was hit with it. Just like he hit their family, hit them. He's going to be dealt with. The entirety of it. To feel the weight of that. You have 6 life sentences. You will never see the light of day. Never see the light of day. Not like these minor marijuana charges that are being dropped. The Biden's dropped, where people are being released for marijuana charges and things of that nature, which is, that's where we should be thinking about. Oh, you get off your trial, get out of your case. Yeah, well, you get charged for having a pocket of that stinky weed, and then you spend 5 years in prison, and then you're able to smoke marijuana for your PTSD from being in prison when you get out of prison in front of a parole officer. I mean, there's some hypocrisy in that. But what we're looking at here is not that. This is a man who killed 6 people and critically injured dozens of others. So what we were driving at was he is representing himself. He has the right to face his accusers, right? The chances of him actually dodging all of these, I mean, even if you look at the reckless, okay, so the follow-up, I believe, was up to 25 years of reckless homicide. I believe I gotta find it. Reckless endangerment leading to homicide, leading to murder, leading to death. Basically, if you recklessly kill somebody because you're being negligent, you can face up to 25 years in prison. So again, that's what he's looking at there for, even if that goes through. You know what I mean? So there's no way that you can get past those. Now, what he's going for then is to manipulate the case in a way where it's not about the actual incidents themselves, each person that he hit and hurt with his car. He's going for the entirety of the case. And then someone said up here that they think that he's going to go for, he's also going off of the materials and paperwork that his attorney previously had. So I feel like let me read this here. Kelly Bradbury says he's also going off of the materials and paperwork that his attorneys previously had. So I feel that, and talking to other inmates that have attorneys that they have been in and out of court, know things to share with him, that he's going to be able to get any LOL books that he wants while he's jail reading it. Yeah, he's going to have access to all the material, and I don't know if he has access to a computer, but I know he's not looking up how to how to fight the case. He's looking for how to get the case thrown out. That's it. You know, he's not trying to, you know, look to prove that he didn't do this. There's no question about him doing it. But who was he at? Where was he arrested? He was arrested there in Waukesha on the front porch of the guy's house. We just showed that video. So if you want, when we wrap this, you can go back and take a look at that. They are all people standing by to help. On TV, they said there are people standing by. Trisha Bartholomew says that there's people standing by. Yeah, someone opened a GoFundMe for him to get like the $5 million bail that was set for him. You know what I mean? You know, which is crazy. I mean, GoFundMe took it down immediately, you know, but it was up there, you know, $5 million. And someone said up here that his Bible is not his letter WCJ on it. The juror. Oh, Barbara Ann says his Bible is not his. It was the letters WCJ on it. Okay. Someone said, hey, Julie, how you doing? And you're welcome. For the level-headed. I'm trying to keep it level-headed. It's hard, though, when you look at this guy. Somebody said, if you're in here still, I just scrolled through about saying there's somebody in the back seat. Oh, here we go. Elaine says, he kept asking about if the witnesses saw someone in the back seat. I was thinking that he was going to say he was held at knife point. He's worked that angle on some people. He said, well, could you see who was in? Could you see the passenger seat? Could you see the back seat where the window's tinted? And I don't know if he's going to be able to come in at the end and say, "What's up, Shar? How you doing?" If you're able to come in at the end and say, "Oh, and by the way, I was being held at knife point. I didn't actually do this. You know, under my own, you know, free will. I was forced to do it. And now I'm going to give you a name, you know, and then give somebody." Here's some real twisted stuff. What if he goes this route? He says, waits till the end, and he's like, actually, I was held at knife point, whatever it is. Because I think right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I was traveling, guys. I was in Wisconsin. I just got out to Washington. It's my birthday for one of these days, so happy birthday me. And so I missed 2 days of the case. But I've been trying to keep up with it, but it's hard to, as you guys know, it's hard to keep up with, like, you know, 8 hours, 9 hours of court all day when you got other stuff going on. So, here we go. So the state right now is presenting their case, which he is able to cross-examine these witnesses, right? He hasn't presented his case yet. So I believe, and I might be wrong, he still has a chance because he deferred to later time to do his opening statement where he's going to present his case, where he can open his part of the case. So the state has the burden of responsibility. So right now they're doing what they have to do with their witnesses and their evidence. They're presenting that to the courts. Darrell Brooks now, following that, once the state has rested, they feel they did an adequate job of presenting their case. We're done now. Darrell Brooks has had a chance to, thank you, April, a chance to cross-examine all those witnesses. Now he can call his own witnesses. Thank you, Wrestlers Mom. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was good. Got to see family. I haven't seen for a couple months. So it was really good. So now he has a chance to I don't know if he's going to be able to cross-examine them, or he's already had a chance to cross-examine them. Sorry. Now he's in a position where he can call his own witnesses. I'm curious to see who that's going to be. Mary Lou, thank you. And present his case. What if his case goes this route? If he says something like, all right, and here's what happened. I wasn't driving that vehicle. There was someone else in the car. Looked just like me. It's this guy. And there's some guy in there who's already cooked. You know, he got caught with a gun, killed, you know, somebody. He knows he's going to prison forever. And that guy was going to say, because he got arrested after the date, he'll be like, hey, man, I'll take that charge. Why don't you give me that charge too? I'll say that I forced you to drive the car, and then you get off, you get out, and all you have to do is, since I'm going to spend life in prison, is just give money to me every week. You know, put money on my books so I can buy a lot of top ramen and you know, and chicharrones and big pickles and cheese. You know, who knows? You know, yeah. Barry McCogner says, you know, when he is found guilty, which, you know, it's hard to imagine that he wouldn't be. The taxpayer shouldn't have to pay any money to house him any longer than it takes to get a date. Well, it takes a lot of people a while to get a date. So, I mean, I know guys that got no game, if that's what you mean. Yeah, so Julie, yeah, here's the thing. He has thus far, and someone had mentioned that because he is pro se, self-defending, what he said is the person in reference, and he has to refer to himself. I don't know if he has to or if he's choosing to refer to himself in the third person because he is acting as his own attorney. So he's referring to the person that he is representing himself. So it's great. Ricky, thank you so much. I don't know if that's how it works, but he's had people on stand even referring to Darrell Brooks instead of him, instead of saying him, you, him, he, that guy right there. They've pointed him out and identified him as the man that they saw previously at the parade. But it's great. Sorry, this thing keeps focusing on me. But it's crazy that he's had other people that are still referring to him as Mr. Brooks or Brooks. They kept calling him Brooks instead of Mr. Brooks. But he's playing up that sovereign citizen thing where he's not an actual citizen of the United States. He's sovereign. He's not there to be tried. He doesn't respond to and or acknowledge the name Darrell Brooks Jr. That is not him. He doesn't know that person. Doesn't know of that person. He's playing all these different angles. You know what I mean? He's just playing angles. Yeah, Ricky, thank you for those birthday stars. Much love. I appreciate you guys. And again, while I'm on that, thank you everyone for the contributions, the stars on Facebook. Every little thing counts, and it helps me kind of keep the lights on, keeps me doing this. I'm not able to do it as much as I'd like because I'm having to work. And I work predominantly out of state down in Los Angeles. So I'm between there and Washington in the last couple months, Wisconsin. So I'm constantly on the move. But I want to be able to do this for you guys full time. But it's tough because it is financially taxing. It takes money to pay bills. I got to feed little Jitsi boy and myself. But anyway, I'm just realizing how tired I look, man. It's been some time. But one of the things that he did try to pull, and here I have that video for you guys right here. I'm going to pull this up, which is it's crazy that he. I'll show you real fast. We'll show a quick snippet of this of him earlier today. I want to make sure I got the right one here. Yeah. Oh, not this one. There we go. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay. Yep. And here we go. I watched this for a while. Okay, so real fast. What we're looking at here is Darrell Brooks has sorry, I got to add to the screen. Sorry. So Darrell, he's called the state of Wisconsin to testify as his accuser, as he feels that's his right. And they've tried to explain this to him, but this is what he is. This is how he's gone about it.
Mr. Brooks, I'm reviewing this for completeness, and you have simply put on here state of Wisconsin plaintiff. That's an entity. You have to name a person, sir. The date. Well, the date we would fill in. So I'll have it shown to the state, and they can let me know their position on that.
Any legal basis why that would not be accepted, Your Honor?
You have to have a person named, sir, so that they can come and testify. You only have an entity named.
Is it not true that under the Sixth Amendment, I have the right to face my accuser?
Mr. Brooks, let me hear from the state.
Yes, Your Honor, I agree with the court's assessment. The subpoena does not state a person. The subpoena form specifically indicates that the person requesting the subpoena is to indicate the witness's name and address. Mr. Brooks has simply written the word state of Wisconsin plaintiff for the witness name. State of Wisconsin is an entity. It's not a person. The state of Wisconsin cannot testify at these proceedings, so the subpoena should be rejected, Your Honor.
Your Honor, on the grounds that document that was filed in this matter stated that the state of Wisconsin was the plaintiff, which would lead me to believe that the state of Wisconsin is who's bringing the claim against my client.
My client.
How could they not be subpoenaed to testify if they're the plaintiff? And under the Sixth Amendment, I have the right to face my accuser. My accuser in this matter is the plaintiff, which is the state of Wisconsin.
Okay.
Attorney Opper also brought up that it didn't have an address on there. None of my subpoenas had addresses, as we went on the record, and that was stated that a lot of the paperwork that I have don't have a lot of the people's addresses on there. Those subpoenas were accepted, so I don't see the difference with this subpoena not being accepted for the reasons that Attorney Opper just stated.
So did he send a subpoena to the state? Is that what he's saying?
Mr. Brooks, in relation to that subpoena, based upon my review for completeness, this court would note you have not named a person, you've named an entity, and the subpoena will be kept on file as part of the court record, but I'm not going to require the state of Wisconsin to testify in this case because they are an entity and you have not named a person.
Okay, you can't call Walmart.
Are they or are they not the plaintiff?
To the stand, you know what I mean?
They are the plaintiff in this case, sir.
But they have their representatives.
Able to testify, being that
Sir,
they
you've not named, you've named an entity, not a person. People are
He's named an entity, not a person. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory, and it's wild because there's the finer particulars about the law, right? That kind of escape us because we don't deal with it every day. But due process and the criminal proceedings. Thank you, Tamara. I appreciate it. Are things that have to happen, and we're all entitled to that. And 100% agree that our constitutional rights need to be 100% extended to every single person. All people deserve that right. Even POS is like this. Now, that being said, there's due process, right? There's things you have to do, and I've had to go ahead and file charges against somebody at one point, and it was wild, man, because I had to represent myself in this issue, and I didn't know the process for entering evidence, and it was for just a ridiculous restraining order that I was filing, and I had, because I didn't do things in a certain process, certain things weren't allowed into the case, and I didn't have anybody coaching me up on that. Like, I had no judge that was like, well, rephrase the question. And the judge, to her credit, has done a pretty good job of maintaining her composure in this. She's also enacted a few executive orders that have allowed her to go ahead and stop his line of questioning and move the case along, ending the line of questioning, because he's doing what he can. He just drags it out. He's getting better at dropping, no further questions. He's only said that 2 times maybe. But you can't call, like I said, Walmart to the stand. Walmart, if you're fighting a case against or trying a case against Walmart, would send their attorneys, their representatives, their whomever, the CEO, whoever. But those are the people that would represent Walmart. Well, it would be Walmart versus whomever. Their people there wouldn't be named Walmart. You know what I mean? And that's what he's going for. He's trying to say, like, well, the state of Wisconsin isn't present. Well, they are present in the fact that people that are there representing the state of Wisconsin. So, but in that, I don't think he's allowed to call attorneys to the stand. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's where he's trying to find a loophole to say, like, well, there needs to be somebody sitting next to an attorney. You can't just be attorneys. But in the state versus, that is exactly how it works. So, tough shit. That's just what's happening. So let's hear what else he has to say about it.
Called to the witness stand to testify. You have had an opportunity to cross-examine every single person who has been called by the state to testify in this trial. I believe that your Sixth Amendment rights have been complied with.
Not if I'm not allowed to face my accuser, Your Honor. My accuser in this matter would be the state of Wisconsin. And with all due
I believe your
respect,
Sixth Amendment rights in that regard have been complied with.
I'm requesting a written judicial finding of fact and conclusion of law on this issue.
In that moment, somebody said he's getting coached 100%. He's sitting down in front of a law book, case law, whatever he's looking at. And he's either done one of a couple things, and I'm not an attorney, nor have I had to defend myself against, this type of situation. So, but I'm guessing there's case law, right? So you can go and you can read up on certain cases and what happened. And you'll hear attorneys, I would refer to, Johnson versus, the state of Mississippi or whatever. And there'll be things that come out of that they use in their defense and or prosecution of a case. And in that, there might be one similar to, in some way, this case that he's hooking himself into. All right, cool. This is what I'm going to go with. This is how I'm going to shadow my case in the same likeness of this particular one that he's finding in some case law that he's reading. Or he found something that he feels will be his ticket to an appeal, his ticket to a mistrial, and everything that is revolving around that is what he's looking into. So the terms like what he just said, which is let me pull it back here.
Regard have been complied with.
I'm requesting a written judicial finding of fact and conclusion of law on this issue.
A written judicial finding of fact and conclusion along this issue. So yeah, he definitely has that in a book. He knew that he was going to make that objection or that he was going to call the state. He knew the state was going to go ahead and say exactly what they said. So he's definitely, we'll give him this. He's a checker brain playing a chess match, and so far he's coasting. He's coasting. He's doing enough to get him through, but he's definitely got some. His maneuvering is there. What he's trying to accomplish, and I'm not giving the man anything more than just to say this is what he's doing. Do I think it'll work? No, but let's see what else he has to say.
For the grounds that I just stated, it was seen based on the Sixth Amendment that I'm not being awarded the chance to face my accuser, which I should be awarded that based on the Sixth Amendment. If I'm not able to face my accuser, then how can the claim even stand? How can a claim be brought against my client if I'm not able to face the accuser?
So this case is a criminal case in a court of competent jurisdiction in the state of Wisconsin, Waukesha County. This case was initiated initially by the filing of a criminal complaint. Then there was a preliminary hearing where probable cause was found. After that point, there was an information that was filed. And at some point, an amended complaint, perhaps even a second amended complaint, was filed as well, putting you on notice of the charges and the factual basis for those charges, along with the statutes that are alleged to have been violated. I'm not going to explain any further why you can't call the state of Wisconsin in the way that you've subpoenaed them or attempted to subpoena them for the reasons I've already stated. I understand where you might disagree with the court's ruling, but my ruling stands, and I'm not requiring the plaintiff in this case to serve that subpoena in any way for the defects I've already noted.
May I state for the record?
And I'm also not going to issue a written decision on that. The record speaks for itself.
May I state for the record, Your Honor, that I have not even seen a complaint in this matter, and the jurisdiction still has yet to be proven, which is another thing that needs to be challenged. There has not been proven that there's subject matter.
Yeah, so he's been going on this subject matter, situation. He's been trying to do this from the beginning, and it's just that's not flying for him. It's not happening. So barring this, ridiculous attempt to, basically prove that there's nobody actually accusing him of anything, is ridiculous. And his Sixth Amendment here is stating he's getting the right to a speedy trial. He's got that. He's got the right to face his accusers, state of Wisconsin, represented duly by the attorneys there. I believe there's even like just a state representative that's not one of the attorneys. It's just there to strictly go over the letter of the law to make sure they do this. And that's one of the things about this. They have to do this by the book, entirely by the book. They have to be very, very careful, you know what I mean? Because they don't want to misstep and accidentally fall into some kind of bee's nest that he's setting up here and have it come back and bite him, you know? But yeah, I can see him pulling some argument like someone else is in the car, like, you know, he, you know, call his mother to the stand. Let's see if Brooks really does exist. Boom. How about that one? There you go. Is he a real person? Is your son, Darrell Brooks Jr., sitting in this room? I don't think that woman's got it in her to say anything other than that. So I think, yeah, that's a Julie. I like what you said there. That's good. And yeah. So this whole thing is wild. The way he's going about it, you know. And here's something to keep in mind too. So I was talking about this earlier. A mass murder is the act of murdering a number of people, typically simultaneously or over a relatively short period of time and in close geographic proximity. The FBI defines mass murder as murdering 4 or more people during an event with no cooling off period between the murders. And a mass murder typically occurs in a single location where 1 or more people kill several others. So we're looking at the potential of a man in the top right corner of the screen there, or top left, depending on how you look at it, being convicted and then now branded as a mass murderer. A mass murderer. And I'll tell you what drives me nuts about this is that these people having to sit in here and listen to him go through his questioning, you know. And I mean, I don't know if it can get more infuriating than having to listen to somebody, you know, basically give you the business while you know the fact of the matter is that the guy, you know, is on trial for being a mass murderer. And this is the kind of stuff that he's doing, you know, that gets me. So let me show you this. So this is the so this was Corey Wrinkle, right? The person I told you that testified about the fight they got into, about the about calling the police, and about how his ex-girlfriend, Darrell Brooks Jr.'s ex-girlfriend, was trying to get back in the car with him, and she was fighting with him, and then Darrell hit her, hit this Corey Wrinkle here. And then this is the kind of like defiance that and just overall absurdity of this man that gets me is let me take this off here real fast though, because we don't need that one on there. Boom. So, and we're just so you guys know what we're talking about here. I don't want there to be confusion. We're talking about Darrell Brooks Jr. right here. Boom. There you go. So anyway, yeah, so this is the Corey Wrinkle on stand, and she's giving her statement, and this is how this guy is acting while people are up testifying, and it blows my mind that, you know, he's able to get away with this kind of that he actually has this type of mentality, you know. So let me throw that on here fast.
Anything to you or Erica or Nick as he was leaving?
Watch Darrell Brooks Jr. here.
Oh. The basis for your objection, you said objection, right?
This is irrelevant.
Part of his objection game.
Truth of the matter asserted.
Well, it's a statement by a party opponent, so it's not hearsay.
Oh, it's his statement. Sorry. I think I misheard what she said. All right. The objection is overruled. If it's, she may testify as to words that you spoke on this occasion. Go ahead.
He told Erica that he was gonna find her and he was gonna kill her.
You see him laughing? He's laughing about this, right? And this is the other charges that are being brought up, right?
Can we pull up Exhibit 5 for the witness, please? Can we pull up Exhibit 5 for the witness? Can we pull up Exhibit 5 for the witness, please?
Pull this one.
Placed at each intersection for security and safety purposes.
And we can move fast a little bit here. I think that.
Let me back up. You're going to hear evidence.
There's a picture of his girlfriend, the big old black eye. after he beat her up. So this was the day that he drove through the parade. This is previously in that day when he mashed up his ex-girlfriend's face, and then hit another girl, Corey Wrinkle, the one who's on stand that he was just laughing at. But you know, this is just par for the course for him. You know, this is how he gets down. You know, this is the guy that we're dealing with right now.
Mr. Brooks
And
say.
so let me but from earlier today, this is
Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm your host, Brian.
so these are some of the witnesses that were on stand earlier. So let's take a couple minutes and look at this real fast. I just want to give you guys an idea of.
Brooks is representing himself as he stands trial for killing 6 people and injuring dozens more. Law and Crime's Angela Levy has the testimony from Wisconsin.
She was lying in the middle of the road, and there were some people around her trying to help her.
Kelly Grabo recalled seeing her daughter Adelia laying in the street after being hit by the red SUV. Adelia had been handing out candy. Grabo described hearing a different sound behind them before they were hit.
I noticed there was a difference in the sound behind us than what I was hearing throughout. So right as she walked off to the side and I seen she walked to the side, I turned. I don't know if I turned fully or just my head. And as I turned, all I seen was the hood of a red vehicle. And I hit the red vehicle and rolled down to the side and landed directly between the Burris Logistics.
Darrell Brooks cross-examines each witness that he is charged with injuring. He has declared himself a third-party intervener as he represents himself.
Do you recall seeing a driver?
No, I seen the red hood of the vehicle. That's all I seen.
So you didn't see the driver or anybody in the vehicle?
No.
Brooks's questions appear to suggest he can't be identified as the driver by some witnesses. He's also asked many people whether or not they heard a horn.
So when you look back, you said you heard screaming, you heard yelling and running. Did you hear a horn honking?
I did not.
Joshua Craner testified to being hit
That's
by
his
the SUV.
SUV flying.
I was struck by the vehicle.
Where did the vehicle strike you?
I don't remember.
Did you receive injuries as a result of the vehicle striking you?
Yes.
And what were those injuries?
I couldn't walk.
Brooks has tried to raise doubts through his cross-examinations about who was driving the red SUV.
So it would be fair to say that at no time during the incident you saw the driver?
No, I did not.
Darrell Brooks has declared himself a sovereign citizen, and he wants the case against.
And again, we've talked about what that means, being a sovereign citizen. And for those that are curious about it, again, a sovereign citizen, just to make sure we're all on the same side here, a member of a political movement of people who oppose taxation, question the legitimacy of government, and believe that they are not subject to the laws of the courts. You know, Social Security numbers, all those things don't apply to them. Which is when he says, "I don't know Darrell Brooks Jr. I don't identify as that person. That person, I don't have any knowledge of that person." Is where he's going with that one. So, yeah, that's where the sovereign citizen thing comes in. So,
against him dismissed, saying the court does not have jurisdiction. But Judge JENNIFER DOROW has denied that request. In Waukesha, Wisconsin, I'm Anjanette Levy for Law and Crime Daily.
Thanks, Anjanette. Joining us today is criminal defense attorney Taylor Koss and co-host Terry Austin. Taylor, Brooks keeps asking and the judge keeps shutting him down, but is there a plaintiff in this case and does it matter?
Thanks for having me, guys. A pleasure to be here. So typically speaking, in a criminal matter, the parties are going to be the prosecution and the defendant, the state versus the defendant, the government versus the defendant. You very rarely, if ever, hear that there's a plaintiff. That is just not a term used in criminal law. However, earlier in one of the pretrial proceedings, the judge actually said on the record when talking to the defendant, "Do you understand that the state of Wisconsin is the plaintiff in this matter?" And that stuck in his head. He's glommed onto that now because, as you know, we've all known, he is claiming he is a sovereign citizen of the United States, that while the U.S. Constitution applies to him, the Wisconsin Constitution does not apply to him. So he keeps trying to associate the state of Wisconsin with being the plaintiff for future jurisdiction arguments.
Right.
It has absolutely no merit, but that's why he's doing it, and he's trying everything. It's cuckoo, but it's what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of cocoa
It's
puffs
cuckoo,
in there.
but he's
said
not cuckoo,
Well,
right?
Terry,
So
there are times that Brooks actually seems prepared. Do you think he's getting some sort of legal advice from somewhere or someone?
Oh, I definitely think he's getting
100%.
some jailhouse advice while he is behind
Like we
bars.
talked
He's
about.
also watching the prosecution. He's learned some of the phrases and some of the key behaviors of the prosecution. Like when he objects, I've noticed a couple of phrases like he was prepared for it. Whenever the state objects, he always says what grounds, and he doesn't even give the prosecutor an opportunity to finish her sentence. I think
Not even a
someone
little
told
bit.
him, you have the right to say what grounds are you objecting on. And if you notice, he's also using certain phrases. So he says, is it fair to say? And he's saying, let me just clarify for the record. These are things that he's heard people talking about.
Yeah, grounds. He's trying to build some sort of an appeal. We'll see what he does as the case continues. Well,
he's trying to figure out his case while they're presenting
we
theirs.
continue our coverage of the Waukesha Parade crash massacre. A parade crash witness breaks down on the stand why the defendant is later called out for his commentary.
And I mean, you've already seen him laughing at witnesses, and now we're at a point where he's.
Welcome back. We continue our coverage in the trial of Wisconsin versus Darrell Brooks.
He's just.
On Tuesday, prosecutors called for Brooks to stop making comments under his breath after the witness became emotional on the stand.
And we can take that down now. Thank you. So, Ms. Kajewski, let me just clarify. What did we see at the end of that video? You can take some time.
A car going through the parade.
Is the video, who even took the video? Is it relevant?
Sir, it's not an objection, it's a statement. You can ask questions later. Go ahead.
So, Judge, before we begin, I have to step in here and request that Mr. Brooks be instructed to stop making comments under his breath. This witness is very clearly having an emotional and difficult time testifying, and she doesn't need to hear that.
100%.
Can't hear anything I'm saying.
Everybody can hear you.
Mics are very good in this courtroom, so please refrain.
Terry, these victims have the patience of a saint as they're being cross-examined by Brooks, especially when they're asked if they ID'd the driver after a loved one was hurt. How do you think the jury is reacting to that?
Oh, you know, that jury is looking at him as though he's arrogant and condescending, because you know why? He is arrogant and condescending. He is really being very difficult, and it's going to hurt his case. I definitely think that.
Here's the issue, though. We're going to continue this. I don't even think he's worried about the jury. He knows that the jury is going to do what they're going to do. There's no way that jury is going to look at him, hear the testimonies of these victims and all the witnesses and say, well, maybe we don't have, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the ability to say that he is guilty of these crimes. I don't even think he really cares about that. He's moved past that. He's moved past this completely to a point where the jury doesn't matter. He's not even pandering to the jury anymore. He's 100% past that point. He's looking directly towards post-conviction to the appeal, because he's going to be in jail for life once convicted. For 6 life sentences. He'll have plenty of time to run every appeal he can. He's going to run the appeal process to the dirt, but he's looking to set himself up for the best opportunity for that next stage of his case, which is going to be mistrial. He's going to move for that in some way, shape, or form. Not going to happen. But his appeal aspect, he's going to go for, all these the hooks that he's going for. Misrepresentation because the state wasn't present as an entity or as an individual, but rather as an entity to actually try the case against him. He's a sovereign citizen, that he was never given evidential. I can't even tell you all the different objections he's had that he's carrying through, but we're not sure yet, because again, I'll say this. He hasn't opened his case yet. This is the case against him as represented by the state. He still has the opportunity to give his opening statements, I believe, and I might be wrong about that, but then to present his case, what his full defense is. And we don't know what that is yet. He could come out flat out and say, I wasn't driving the car. Y'all are trying the wrong guy. I was tied up in the back seat. I was unconscious. There's a man that looked just like me. named Darrell Brooks, and he's running around here somewhere, but y'all need to go get him. I'm not him because I'm a sovereign citizen that goes by the letter Q, like whatever, letter R, whatever, a symbol for the iron, on the periodic chart, whatever. But he's positioning himself for the next stage. So
he's been rude to all of the witnesses, the officers who were on before the family and victims came on, and his ex-girlfriend. He needs to be respectful, as the judge has said many times to everyone in that courtroom. And when you have a witness who's been injured or whose family member has been injured, you especially have to show deference. That jury is looking at him and they will absolutely hold it against him, even if they felt sorry for him because he doesn't know his way around the courtroom. It's definitely going to hurt him.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of sympathy is going Brooks' way. But
I'll say this too. I think the judge is doing a better job of not pandering to him from what I've seen, because in the first day or two, the guys were watching with us. She was giving him accolades at the end of the day. He did a good job today. He asked some intelligent questions. He stayed on task. He wasn't argumentative. He was all these things, and giving him a checklist of things he did right. And I understand that maybe that was just to keep him kind of on the leash, so to speak, so that he wouldn't go off and cause a tangent and just derail the entire court proceedings. But it could have also been that she was just wowed by the fact that he wasn't being a total tool bag. I don't know, but it was really kind of infuriating for us to watch. I know those that were with us when we were watching it was just like, would you stop pandering to this guy? Like, he doesn't get any extra conditions or extra consideration because he's defending himself. Nobody cares. You're on trial here for what you've done. Whether or not you know how to do that in the defense of yourself is beyond us. It's not our concern. Nobody's concern. If you felt confident enough in the law books you've been reading up on and all the advice you've been getting in the last 11 months in jail to do this, great, man. Then you're solid. You've regurgitated some objections, some legal jargon, and you feel like that's going to be enough to litigate. But at the point that we're at, it's not, and it won't be. And that's where I have faith in the system to say, you're a horrible human being. What you've done was horrific. Accept it. Apologize for it. Be remorseful. Throw yourself at the mercy of not the courts, but of the families and the victims that you killed and that you hurt and that you maimed and that'll have permanent scarring, mentally, emotionally, physically, for the rest of their lives. The community that you devastated. Throw yourself at their mercy and just allow them the opportunity to heal and to have the closure they deserve. But to sit defiantly and laugh and to be pejorative towards these people that are trying to give the accounting of what they suffered through, man. I mean, here's the thing: is eventually this fool is going to end up in lockup with somebody whose family who lost a mother, who lost a grandmother, who lost a nephew, who lost a cousin, who lost a brother, that isn't going to find his little giggles about not understanding court proceedings funny, and they're going to catch up with him when he's in lockup. Now, that's neither here nor there, but when it is there, the correctional facilities on the inside have a pretty good way of handling their own. So, I mean, I was just watching the Dahmer story, and we saw what happened there. Just saying, man, bad people, bad things happen.
Is asking, can you take an educated guess as to what his summation would look like, and will it help with any of these charges?
Well, first of all, I think it's fair to say that the summation is going to be as close to a three-ring circus as humanly possible. But if we can hone in on something, the common thread from what I've seen and what he's trying to get from the witnesses during his cross-examination is that they didn't see him driving the car. They can't describe him. They can't describe features of him driving the car, at least some of the witnesses. So it's fair to assume he's going to argue some sort of identification issues. Additionally, he's brought up this issue of, did you hear a honking horn? Did you hear a honking horn? Perhaps if identification is acknowledged, perhaps he's going to say, you know, he tried to notify people. There was a honking horn. Everybody should have known to get out of the way. Either way, don't think he's going to be successful on any of these, the identification particularly. But, you know, the fact that they didn't see him, so to speak, driving the car, something he's gotten his hooks into and likely to repeat on end during his summation.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I'm curious. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but we'll answer it another day. Can he be both or all three, defendant, witness, and lawyer? Maybe he'll take the stand himself. We'll see how that plays out. Another ring to that circus you were talking about. Well, switching now to another highly publicized case, as Anand Syed is officially exonerated in the murder of Heyman Lee.
All right, so that's kind of what we're looking at with this guy, you know. I'm just throwing this up here, and his defiance to anybody is wild. That he's able to sit there and feel in some way, shape, or form and a comfortable enough to just badger these witnesses, you know. And these witnesses aren't just people that were, you know, standing on the street side, you know, just generally watching. These are people that were directly affected and involved. They were hit, they were struck, that were pulling family members off of the street after he ran through them. So this is no little thing that we're dealing with here. It's this guy of all people, you know. And his girlfriend, actually, even when she was on the stand, I don't know if you guys saw that part of it, but I think I have that one for you. Where are we at here? Here we go. Well, let me pull this up for you guys real quick. And I appreciate you guys bearing with me on this one. Sorry, it's just hard to get these things all queued up so you guys can see the most, you know, relevant videos here. But I want to make sure you're aware of what's going on. We just saw some of these witnesses that testified, so we're not going to jump back into that. And we'll take a look at what. So we're gonna take a look at this real fast. Yeah. Okay. We got some stuff we're gonna take a look at here real fast. All right. Boom. And anyone who wants to report in about what's going on with the tornado out in Kenosha. Yeah. So Kelly, yeah, you grew up in Paddock Lake. Spend a lot of my time out there. I'm actually out in Bristol right now. But there's a tornado that touched down out there, and that's why they're not in court right now. They cut court early so that people can go home, take care of family, whatnot, get ready for this big tornado that touched down in like Pleasant Prairie, Kenosha area, which isn't far from Waukesha. So that's why they're not in court. They cut early today. So we've got this. Okay. There we go. All right. Sorry. The quiet air is always tough for me. I don't like that. You guys know that much. And just ride with me, folks. And there we go.
An emotional day of testimony in the Darrell Brooks trial. The focus tonight, 2 youth teams that were marching in the parade when they were struck. That's where we begin tonight at 9. Testimony amid tears. The jury faces emotion from witnesses and from Darrell Brooks himself at his murder trial today.
It comes as prosecutors say they won't rest their case as soon as they had hoped. Sam Kramer joins us live tonight in Waukesha. And Sam, that delay is largely because of today.
Yeah, that's right, Steph. District Attorney Susan Opper said she didn't expect to only call 7 witnesses today. She said that was because the cross-examination took longer than she expected. Tonight, the jury knows a lot more about the route prosecutors say Darrell Brooks took down Main Street, which they say went right through some of the youngest people there. Seated at his defense table, Darrell Brooks gathered himself before cross-examination Tuesday.
I'm sorry about that. I just needed a second.
Brooks didn't say why, but his comments came after more powerful testimony.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat.
Jeff Rogers, president of the Waukesha Blazers Baseball Club, described what he saw after prosecutors say Brooks drove his SUV through the club.
Jackson was motionless on the ground, eyes open, didn't appear to be aware.
Did he appear to be alive?
Was unsure.
8-year-old Jackson Sparks was the youngest person killed in the parade attack.
Did you see?
The state points out not once did Brooks stop the SUV, drawing this reaction from a coach with the extreme dance team who watched a video, which we aren't showing, as 15 people in her group were hit. Here's what Alyssa Gajewski testified she did when she saw one of her dancers lying in the street.
I picked her up as soon as her body was right in front of me. I just picked her up because I didn't know what was about to happen.
Then a Waukesha police detective detailed his analysis of the SUV's speed while on Main Street. Using surveillance video, 3D mapping, and a special software, Michael Carpenter says it was driving between 33 and 34 miles per hour based on his calculations.
Basically measuring how far that SUV or that wheel traveled during those frames in that amount of time.
Now, tomorrow morning, we expect prosecutors to continue following the SUV's path right down Main Street, which would focus next on the second death. That's 52-year-old Jane Kulich. But in the afternoon, because the court will have a Spanish interpreter on site, Darrell Brooks will actually call his first witness out of turn. Right after that is done with cross-examination from the state prosecutors, will then resume their case. We're live tonight in Waukesha. Sam Kramer, Fox 6 News.
We'll be there for all of it, Sam. Thank you. Stay with Fox 6 for the latest.
So that was, again, another look at the testimony from earlier. It's hard to see. But I mean, in another, we've got, and let me pull this up. So the only people, someone said something like this, people that are standing by for Darrell Brooks, that are like, that are there to represent or that stand by. There are crazy people. Like I mentioned that this Dahmer series I started watching, it's dark and it's messed up. And when he's getting letters while he's in prison, talking about how he's biggest fans, that kind of thing. They're crazy people draw and attract crazy people. That's just what it is. You know what I mean? The darkness attracts the dark. You know what I mean? It repels the light, which means it goes further towards the dark. You know what I mean? And the more that you immerse yourself in the madness of it, the more you're going to find people that support that, right? Because they are also in the madness and they want to know, oh, you're good. It's like a drug addiction. It's like you don't often see drug addicts pushing drug addicts out of their drug addiction, because there's and it's different in this because there's a level of hurt, pain, and self destruction that you want to keep people around you to insulate you so you don't feel so crazy, you don't feel so broken, you don't feel so dark, and in that the similarity would be that for people like this, they're around a lot of people, they're in jail. I'm not saying all people in jail are evil. I'm saying that they're around a lot of people and they may find people that kind of homogenize while they're in jail, that are in the similar mindset, similar soul set, whatever you want to call it, similar harmonic vibration, whatever it might be. And those are the people that sit in together, and that will be a part of like the grouping that'll support one another while he's going through his trial. But anybody, you can imagine if you were in jail for, I don't even know, unpaid tickets, whatever. And you're sitting down eating and you hear this guy at a table next to you with like 3 other guys and they're all talking. And they're trying to tell him how to best to work the case where he killed 6 people, including an 8-year-old little boy, and dozens of other people are injured. You're not going to want to sit down and like break bread with that guy. You know what I mean? That's not going to be you're not going to go there and be like, oh, what's up, man? You seem like a normal dude. You can't be that bad. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. The the brakes didn't go out on his car. It wasn't anything like that. So that's not the case. But there are people. Now there are people that aren't crazy, that are just there because they love him, and they're in their right. They are like family. Family will be with you. And one of those people here is Darrell Brooks' mom, who has been well, here, let's hear from her. Let's hear what she has to say here. And pull that up here real quick for you. All right. Boom, boom, boom.
Dawn Woods says the state called her as a witness to testify, but they withdrew the subpoena. When I sat down with her for an exclusive interview since her son's trial began, she says that brought her relief. From fighting to the judge to taking his shirt off, the trial has really been nothing short of dramatic. And that's why Woods says she isn't watching because, well, it's just too much for her to take.
Right now, I'm just heartbroken, just shattered.
Did he ever talk about driving through the parade route? Did you have a conversation with him?
Early on. And he does not remember. Every time Darrell goes into a manic where he explodes like that, he does not remember what he did. You have to tell him what he did. He knows what you told him, but he can't recall the act. I don't believe, from what I've known or what I've seen, that Darrell was even in his right mind. I don't think he was even conscious to what he was doing.
Whose idea was it for him to represent himself? Was it his, yours, together?
No, I would never advise him to represent no one to represent himself, especially in a case that's so serious.
But he insisted?
No, he felt that his lawyers did not have his best interest at heart.
So he's been in court and he has taken off his shirt and he has interrupted the judge, and the judge has thrown him out saying, you can't keep doing this. His behavior in court, and we've seen this play out, is erratic,
all pre-trial, mind you.
at times towards the judge, disrespectful. What do you say to that? What message would you send to him?
I have talked to him about that, and I have told him, I said, you're going to have to try to keep a cool head because it's making you look bad.
You can't look good is the problem.
He's not medicated.
They have medication in jail.
Giving him anything for his illness.
What's his illness?
What message do you have for the families?
I just want them to know that was not a deliberate act. When you're manic and you're out of control, you don't know what you're doing. He didn't know what he didn't know what he was doing. He was not in his right mind. It wasn't intentional. He didn't mean to hurt nobody. We talk about the family often and the victims, and he says to me that he prays for them too, and he has to live with the fact that regardless to what goes down, what happened, 6 people died because of him. He is very, he's full of shame.
You brought up the little Sparks boy. What would you say to his mom tonight? If she sees this, what message would you like to say to her?
I would tell her, not just his mom, but his dad and his brother too, that little Jackson, he had his whole life ahead of him. And he's now a sweet angel. He did not deserve what happened to him.
Do you think Darrell should go to prison, and if so, how long?
There should be some accountability to what he did. Yes, ma'am.
Some accountability.
How long?
Yeah, that's tough for mother to say.
Me to say. My only concern was that instead of being in prison, I feel he needs to be institutionalized where he can get the help he needs.
I really want to hear what they're saying his condition is.
And again, Dawn says she doesn't plan to watch any of the trial again. It's just too hard because she sees him as somebody with a mental illness, not the son that she knows.
And that was an original plea, which was pulled back, and now he's representing himself. She's not a witness anymore. She was going to be called, so she can't talk to him. How often do they speak? And whatever she says to him, does it seem to be getting through? And she says, stop the antics.
Yeah, apparently not. And she said that's the mental illness. She's only been there twice to talk to him. She doesn't go again because her car was impounded. She doesn't have a car. Says she only gets 15 minutes behind glass and it's all recorded. So she feels put off by that. So she talks to him on the phone, but will not, she said, go to Waukesha.
Also
anymore.
recorded. So
trial starts again in them.
So that's that's what is his mom. His mom, of course, is going to be, she's going to stand by her son. And I mean, I can't expect her to say, what his punishment should be. That's that's a rough one. That's a rough one to ask a mother to even speculate on what she thinks her son should have to you know what I'm getting at. I mean, it's just been impossible for mom to say that. But he has had some moments where he's put himself, in the emotional Darrell Brooks. That's the one that is the one you don't see too often. And because he's always playing this defiant, he's switched his whole demeanor a couple times. Here, let me just show you here. This is from day one. I'm going to show you this video they made of the top 5 wildest moments in Darrell Brooks' murder trial. This is day one, mind you. This is just day one. And this was ongoing. You know what I mean? This was ongoing, nonstop, just for the first couple of days, which blew my mind that he was able to continue with these kind of outbursts and this kind of this demeanor. But they had to move him into a different courtroom. They had to put him in a separate courtroom that was a side-by-side where he was televised into the courtroom, the main courtroom, and he had to hold up an objection sign because they had him muted because he kept talking over. So, I mean, that's the level of individual we're dealing with right now. But these are the top 5 wildest moments in this murder trial, which is a mass murder trial, day one. So
within a minute of us starting this case here today, I'm asking you to respectfully not interrupt me. That's the second time, so I can go through the list of things that I need to get through this morning.
The trial for Darrell Brooks, the man accused of driving through the Waukesha Christmas Parade last year, killing 6 people, begins, and Brooks is representing himself as a sovereign citizen. I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome to Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. Darrell Brooks faces 76 counts in Waukesha County. 6 of those counts are intentional homicide. And we're looking at the top moments of the Brooks trial so far, with opening statements beginning Thursday. The day started with Waukesha County Judge JENNIFER DOROW asking Brooks to put on a suit.
It is your choice, though. Are you willing to go back to your cell and put on your suit?
It is my right to do so or to not do so. And at this point, Your Honor, who doesn't know that I'm in custody?
Mr. Brooks, I've had many trials with individuals who are in custody, and when I've talked to the jurors after the conclusion of the case, they had no idea. The whole point of allowing for street clothing is not only to shield jurors from the fact that you are in custody, but also you being in a suit and a tie or other street clothing, I think also lends to the dignity of the proceedings. This is a trial.
No, he doesn't have to take his mask off.
Again, it is your choice. Are you willing to go back to your cell and be dressed in the street clothes that you previously appeared in?
With all due respect, I do not agree with that assessment whatsoever. There's no possible way that anybody will not know that I am in custody. I think that's a well-known fact because it's reported on every day in the media. It's shown every day on the news. where I am, what jail I'm housed in, and that I'm in custody.
And he loves it. He loves the
Virtually
attention.
Impossible for
He loves the
anybody
attention.
to not know that I'm in custody.
And joining me to discuss this is Bernarda Villalona. She is a defense attorney and a former prosecutor. Bernarda, welcome to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Anjanette.
I don't think I've ever seen a judge in all my years covering court cases have to tell a defendant, we need you to put some clothes on that are appropriate for court. You need to put on a suit. What did you think when this started this morning?
It's crazy.
So in 18 years practicing in criminal law as a prosecutor as well as a defense attorney, I have never heard a judge tell a defendant, put on some clothes, because usually that's the very basic in every trial, in every case where the defendant, the number one they take into account is I want to be professionally dressed so a jury can watch me and be able to judge me fairly.
Again,
because of
he doesn't care about the jury. Remember that.
First appearances
They don't matter to
are
him.
the most important.
Not to be defined,
Let's
but it's
take a
because
look at another clip where
wager
the
into his
judge
what he's trying to
obviously
accomplish.
got frustrated with Brooks.
More interruptions.
I
We'll
have
be
shock-
off the record while
shocks
we do
on my
that.
ankle.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
don't agree to a stop, or I move for a motion to dismiss for being under duress and being coerced into a contract that I did not consent or agree to. I have a right to be present for trial.
Yes,
Now,
you do.
Bernarda, what is your take on how the judge is handling this thus far? This is something that we don't see very often. Someone saying, I'm going to represent myself. I'm a sovereign citizen. And his behavior is just kind of beyond the pale.
So what makes this case stand out from a lot of other cases, I have seen defendants represent themselves even in homicide cases in New York. However, in those cases, the judge always gives standby counsel to be present during the entire trial to be able to assist the defendant. But in this case, as you can see, there is no standby counsel because that's not applicable in the state of Wisconsin. So this is a huge issue in terms of the defendant's behavior and also how he's going to represent himself because he is totally on his own.
Now let's take a look as Brooks returned to the courtroom without a shirt.
All right, we are back on the record. Appearances are as they were before. I need to make a record that at 8:42 a.m. this court ordered Mr. Brooks be removed from the courtroom due to repeated interruptions and disruption with the court. This, of course, comes on the recent history with Mr. Brooks. On every day that we have been in court since Monday, he has shown a complete and utter disrespect for the simple rules of civility. He has been removed from the courtroom multiple times. This morning alone, he started interrupting this court within a minute of the court calling the case. I should also make a record at the moment he is muted because of the way that he was removed from the courtroom and his conduct since. I have been given just a bit of information about it. I will advise everyone that I have required that the Sheriff's Department file a written report with the court regarding Mr. Brooks's conduct. I'm told that he would not sit down while in this courtroom in order to have the shackles removed so that he could be taken to the other courtroom, that he was resisting, that at one point he took off a shoe and it appeared to the deputies that he was going to throw the shoe.
So Bernarda, in that clip, she's discussing how Brooks had to be removed from the courtroom. Your take?
She was right in having him removed from the courtroom. It is so sad that we're seeing mental health breakdown taking place right before our eyes, and especially in a case when you're talking about this man having killed 6 people. But to the extent that this man, Darrell Brooks, has now taken off his shirt, now that is something you definitely don't see in the courtroom, and it was appropriate for the judge to have him removed and also tell him to put on a shirt.
And then there was discussion about a mental health exam that had been performed on Brooks earlier this year.
Attorney Opper, and I do appreciate you raising that with the court because I share your observations that you've just made. noted on the record. I would adopt them fully as if they were my own and make them part of the findings that I've already made on the record. Obviously, I personally haven't listened to the jail phone calls that you referenced, but I do take your statements as an officer of the court. I look forward to further reviewing them, if need be, changing any conclusions that I've reached here today, and I would require you to file that exhibit so that that can be part of the record as well. I would also add to what
again,
you
these
have
are
just stated. This court has read through not one, not two, not
top
three,
5
but 4 evaluations related to the special plea
outbursts and
that
crazy
was
moments
withdrawn.
for Darrell Brooks.
And those are very recent evaluations where the examiners met face to face in the jail or in an appropriate visitation room with Mr. Brooks, either in July or August of this year. And every single one of those individuals did a mental status exam that's noted in their reports. Frankly, the behavior that we're starting to see here is no different than some of the behavior that was noted by those examiners.
See him shirtless,
as well.
pacing around.
So basically, Bernarda, it sounds like they're saying, look, the guy's competent. You know, he's undergone a mental health exam. So your thoughts on that?
Well, it's important for the judge as well as the prosecutor to put on the record that Mr. Brooks has been evaluated, and based on that evaluation,
there has been a lot
he
of
is
craziness allowed
competent to
in this
proceed.
case.
He is competent to be able to understand what is going on in the courtroom and also the roles of the different players. That's why it's so important to constantly remind the court as well as the parties and the public that this man has been cleared to be able to move
100%.
forward. So while we're seeing all these crazy performances by Darrell Brooks, in the end, you have a doctor who said that Mr. Brooks is competent to proceed to trial.
There's a lot of eggshells, like you said,
And
a lot of
prosecutors
eggshells.
actually asked Judge Dorow to reconsider a decision she had earlier made. They were worried about these witnesses being shown. But this is what Judge Dorow had to say about the prosecutors requesting that the victims in this case and witnesses
Press that on
not be
YouTube.
shown.
You're spot on.
Brooks,
He's
my
definitely
first
on a
question
strategy.
to you
He's got a
is,
plan. You know?
Do you have a position on the state's request in
You're
their
right,
motion
Jessica.
for
He knows. He doesn't care.
reconsideration? I'm looking for a yes or no answer. If you unmute
right.
and provide that to me. Go
I
ahead.
didn't hear what they said. I just put the headphones on, so I didn't even hear what she said.
Thank you, Jessica.
Sir, it's a written document that was filed and you were provided a copy of that yesterday. We took a recess yesterday so it could be served upon you. If you haven't read it, that's your choice. What I'm asking you is, do you have any position on their request for this court to reconsider?
I pray to God he does put himself on the stand and question himself. That just
the denial of the
needs
court's,
to happen.
Sorry, the denial of the state's request to prohibit the photography and video recording of victims and witnesses, and specifically their faces, while they testify.
A ruling was already, we already talked about.
He refused to sit
ruled
for the
that,
first 2 days as well.
The victims and witnesses will be shown. That was already ruled on.
You are correct, but they filed a motion for reconsideration. That's a
Dual
the
personality
document
bombshell. There you go. That could be the
was
thing.
provided to you yesterday.
You might pull that.
I'm asking if you have any position on the request that I reconsider my ruling.
Yeah, it was everything's supposed to be public. This is a public trial.
Bernarda, I think
Yes,
it would have
Chris,
been
he did
rare, and I
shave his
worked
head
in
on purpose.
Wisconsin for many
He's
years.
trying to change the way he
covered
looks so
many
that
trials
the
up
witnesses
there.
can't
I think it would
identify
have been
him.
really odd for the judge to say, yeah, we're going to have cameras in here, but we're not going to show any of the witnesses.
Absolutely, because remember also the public has a right to know what's going on in criminal cases. Remember that courtrooms are open to the public
No, you're not
to
required
the
to be shaving
extent
in
also
jail
that
at
a
all.
defendant's conviction can be reversed if it's determined that the public was not allowed. And that has happened in many cases here in New York. So in terms of, I was concerned a bit if the witnesses wouldn't be shown. I understand that, yes, is an issue in terms of safety, but also their own condition in terms of testifying and to know that they're being videotaped and being shown to the public. That is a concern. But we also, as the judge correctly ruled, that we have a public right and to view a trial of such huge concern to the community.
Yeah, I think the community needs to see and hear it, especially in a case, as you said, that's as big as this one. Well, Bernarda Villalona, former prosecutor, currently a criminal defense attorney, thanks so much, as always, for your time and for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Jeanette.
And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. It is produced by Sam Goldberg, Logan Harris, and Michael Deininger. Bobby Zoki is our YouTube manager. Alyssa Fisher handles our bookings, and Kiara Bronson does our social media. You can listen to and download Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, you can watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angie.
All right, so let's so we're gonna take a look at another video here. This is when Darrell Brooks actually was. This is his sovereign citizen moment. Is when he was claiming to be a sovereign citizen. But the yeah, this guy, I tell you. Let's go into here real fast and I'll pull that up for you. Here we go. But this is when he was, I believe what we're going to look at real quick is the one of him. This is where the judge says he's not able to use the sovereign citizen defense at trial. So this is when he's trying to say that he's not able to be held to the courts because he's a sovereign citizen. He doesn't recognize or acknowledge the courts or the judicial system of America to preside over him because he is a sovereign citizen. And we've seen, I'll show you some videos of other people who have tried to use the sovereign citizen defense, and it hasn't gone so well. But this would be Darrell Brooks when he was going for the sovereign citizen defense. Sorry. Let's do this again. Sorry, guys, this is a little process here. Sorry, I had to move studio, so we're back in Washington now, and trying to get it all up and running.
He is a sovereign citizen, and today the judge ruled Brooks will not be able to use that as a defense because it does not have merit. Ben Jordan goes in depth on what a sovereign citizen is and why the defense has never worked in a criminal case in the state of Wisconsin.
A sovereign citizen is someone who believes they are not under the jurisdiction of the federal government and therefore thinks the laws don't apply to them. A local civil rights attorney says it's an illegitimate defense.
Mr. Brooks, you're interrupting me yet again. All right.
Among Darrell Brooks's many outbursts at trial, he suggests being a sovereign citizen means he's immune to the rules of the court and the laws in Wisconsin. From a legal standpoint, what does this mean?
From a legal standpoint, it means nothing because it's not a defense at all.
Milwaukee civil rights attorney William Sultan says that's because the concept isn't recognized as a legal defense in any courtroom in the United States.
It's a theory that has been rejected for decades, and the court properly rejected it here.
William says the unusual defense has gained steam and become more common over the last decade.
Have you ever seen someone try to use this sovereign citizen defense here in Wisconsin?
Yes, there was a case of some notoriety about 7-8 years ago with an individual who had put false liens on some judges in Milwaukee and Waukesha County. His case ended up being moved to Dane County, and he did pursue a sovereign citizenship defense.
How did it work out?
Not well. He was convicted.
Dr. Christine Sarteski is a professor at Chatham University who's closely monitoring the Brooks trial from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
A lot of people have never seen a sovereign citizen or have heard of the defense. I've been tracking them for a number of years now. I have I wrote a book on them. I have a website.
Dr. Sarteski says the sovereign citizen movement has been fueled with falsehoods on social media and the internet.
People always ask me, well, why would anyone try this when they never work? But the thing is I don't think the people who are trying them know it doesn't work. Or they might believe, hey, if I just use my strategy, this little difference here, it will work this time.
Not only does Dr. Sarteski say the defense is ineffective in the courtroom, she says so-called sovereign citizen extremism poses a threat to law enforcement.
You add in somebody who comes in with these illegitimate ideas that have no basis in law, but they really believe them. So they then fight with the officer. And this has led to sovereigns being shot at traffic stops and including, officers being shot.
Dr. Sarteski says a sovereign citizen defense never works out in the end, but it can cause major delays in trial due to constant objections, similar to what we've already seen in Mr. Brooks' case. Reporting outside the Waukesha County Courthouse, Ben Jordan.
A recess.
So, yeah, that was classic situation there, right? So that's basically saying what we all know is that this sovereign citizen defense isn't going to work. And it's been wild because if you've seen any of these traffic stops and things where people just, they say that they're not driving, that they're traveling. There are these little terms that they use, these key terms to maintain that ideology, and that being that, like I said, they're not. There's no jurisdiction over them because they are not a citizen of the United States. So, Cindy Herring on YouTube says he's a very studied, in quotes, piece of work. He's already watched Hannibal play emotional Darrell, and I believe it's Darrell actually, not that you spelled it wrong, but I think that's how someone else has pronounced it. Then suddenly attack witnesses who's been through heck. He flips back and forth. He's going to use two personalities. I mean, that could be the case. And that being said, let me go ahead and give you guys this real fast here. So in one, we haven't seen him in any form, showing any kind of emotion, right? So this, however, would be a situation where, that was different. This is one of those times where he decided that he was going to express some emotion, apparently. Yeah, it could be the guy. He goes back and forth, right? He goes back and forth, and so we're gonna take a look at this, see how he acts when he's being emotional, if you will.
So that the test result could be obtained, and if necessary, by reasonable force. It's my understanding there was some type of situation or altercation between Mr. Brooks and the deputies. Ultimately, though, I think he was taken into the bullpen. He was brought back out, but it was very clear to me that he was upset. I think understandably so, but I needed to make a record of what was being done, including that I have obtained the test result. So there's an accurate record in this case related to the motion that was raised previously by Mr. Brooks. I want Mr. Brooks to know that I am not removing him from when the jurors are brought back in. It was just simply because he was upset. He was very loud when I walked into the courtroom before going on back on the record.
She's doing her best to protect him from looking like a total nutball
yelling
in front
about
of the
his
jury.
constitutional rights being violated. I advised him that if there was any.
What happened here is on last week up until Friday, they said he had said that he felt sick. They said he felt like he had the virus, the Rona. He took a test. He was waiting for the results. They offered him a rapid test. He denied that, and the results were supposed to come in on Friday. The results did come in early Friday, and while they were, I believe it was early Friday, and they did note that they handed it to him in a folded piece of paper. Then they said that they wanted to know the results of the test, as it was pertinent to the case, because he was between two courtrooms. I think one of them was sequestering him, or not sequestering, but quarantining himself, something along those. I mean, it's kind of confusing. But then when they said, "Would you, please present your results?" He refused to do so, and the judge said, "Well, if you're not going to give us the results, we're going to come take the results." And so they had shit, and he said, "Well, it's in some of my paperwork here." And then, all right, well then. And he started getting really worked up about it, how he's, that's when he started yelling about his constitutional rights. And they ordered the sheriffs to actually go in and forcibly find his COVID test, because he was trying to drag the court case out even longer because of this COVID thing. So they found the results, and then the judge read them, saying that it was negative.
Any type of use of force that he wanted to complain about, he could certainly do that.
But they had to forcibly remove him while they did that.
The sheriff's department, but just given his state of agitation and my need to make a record, I had him taken to the other courtroom. He is currently muted. I do
And
not
this was
intend
last
to
week.
go forward with additional testimony. Ultimately, I'm going to take an early lunch break because of this, but I will make a record of the following. I have the result. I am going to scan it, have my clerk scan it. It will be filed as confidential, though. It won't be available to the public.
Which is funny
But
because it's on
there
a
for appellate purposes.
thousands
But I can confirm that
thousands
the
and
test
thousands of people are
result for
watching this.
COVID-19 was negative. And again, I required the sheriff's department to provide that result
that's right.
to
Those
me. And it was, and it will remain under seal. I realize
He said, I don't want to dress up. You know, I don't want to put on my nice clothes if I have COVID. I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to look nice. That's why he was saying he was still wearing his jail orange. Okay.
I'm disclosing that result, but I feel obligated to do that given the motion that was raised 2 days ago by Mr. Brooks. Again, I intend to take an early lunch, so that will hopefully give Mr. Brooks an opportunity, if he so chooses, to review the result himself. It was put in front of him. I did see that he either shoved it or tossed it or just dismissed it. It looked like it went on the floor when it was put in front of him, but we'll certainly have the deputies give that to him again. During the recess for lunch, Mr. Brooks will also be given the opportunity to change into street clothes if he so chooses. But when we come back, he will be in this courtroom. I agree. Mr. Brooks was making a couple of statements about how he was abiding by the rules and being respectful, things of that nature. I agree. He's done an excellent job while in court here this morning. He's been respectful of the rules. He made some early on. I let him, make his objections or lack of consent. He did that respectfully. When I said I was moving on, he generally was able to do that. We were able to get through 2 witnesses. He was able to follow along, ask cogent, clear.
And to be clear, real fast, cogent, clear. This is the part that, and a lot of people got mad, but where she was, just pacifying this guy, like the fact that he was not being a complete asshat, that he was like not fighting and yelling and screaming. Part of that I appreciate might have been just to butter him up, but also who cares if he's going to scream and cause outbursts and be disruptive and be contemptuous of court, then maybe he should be held in contempt of court. That's just what it is. You don't get attaboys, gold stars, and a participation trophy just because you happen to not throw a chair at somebody while you're in court. That's not how it works. You have to abide by the same standards that everybody does, be you an attorney, a witness, a plaintiff, a defendant, it doesn't matter, or even just in the bullpen, whatever. You are required to hold yourself to a certain decorum while you're in court, right? And if you do so, you don't get special recognition. And that's where she's giving him this praise, saying like, he hasn't screamed at me or done anything the last little bit. He's been okay. And someone made a point, she said this is your final warning. I don't even know how many times. So isn't final warning like your final warning? But the case has to go on. So
responsive and articulate objections. He was able to elicit information from the witnesses regarding either their memory, their credibility, and other things. Generally speaking, he's been able to competently represent himself and provide, again, solid cross-examination this morning. So I'm going to give him an opportunity to hopefully settle back in and to come back here when we return from lunch. So with that, we are in recess. Probably come back at 1 o'clock since it's only 11:30 and we'll take the full 90 minutes for lunch today. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So there he is. We would assume
and more time
crying it out. Now, here's the thing, and it's tough. Man, it sucks. Part of me just had the thought, right? And I hate it, but it's this guy, this Darrell Brooks guy, it seemed like he had a supportive mother, right? But we don't know. That could be where things are at now. That could have been the first time that he'd ever heard anybody give him any kind of praise. You know what I mean? That could have been the emotion that he's feeling. Is that the first time anyone's ever said anything nice about him was, you know, and don't attack me for saying that. I'm just saying, you know, he, you know, or that's the play he's going at, is now he feels like the judge is giving him, he's playing the judge. You know, the judge is giving him some like, hey, you're doing good. And then he breaks down to try to find his way into her confidence. Like, oh, he's, I'll try to work with him a little more because he does seem like he's got some emotion, but he's got to put on his tough boy pants because he's representing himself. So, I mean, there's all sorts of things at play. You know what I mean? This guy is not, to be very clear, he's not playing the game. He's definitely playing the game. So I don't hold any legitimacy to much of anything he does. You know what I mean? It just seems like, you know, the guy has got a game plan. He's working towards, someone said earlier, he's working towards a strategy. That's not to be overlooked. You know, this is, I gotta say, this was during the jury selection, which I thought was wild. When he tried to have one of the jurors thrown out. I'll let you guys take a look at this real quick. It was just wild. But he was claiming that the juror flipped him off, is what he was. And nobody saw this, but in all fairness, if she had, or, you know, he had, or they had, maybe they just didn't want to be on that jury. You know what I mean? That could have been it.
We'll make sure you have copies of the filings as well, so you know what will be discussed, or at least addressed in some fashion. But I need to provide copies to the state.
Is it fair to say, yeah?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Dozer, you guys are right. She's trying to prove that he's
competent. I noticed that one of the jurors, the lady in the black that's closest to the screen, in that corner chair over there, I recognize her from my initial appearance. She flipped me off coming in to my initial appearance and coming out. I know it's her for a fact. I seen her about like how I'm looking at you right now, so I know for a fact.
Can I make a point real quick? He recognizes this juror that walked by him, right? And he says, I know it's her, like I'm looking at you right now. You know, I'm looking at you. So I recognize her. He's questioned the credibility of all these witnesses that looked at him while he was driving. Well, could you know, intelligently identify him by his hair, by the pigment of his skin? What shade of dark you think he is? You know what I mean? And now he's saying the exact same thing. I recognize her because I looked at her. Like, come on, man. You drove your car into people. They looked at you while it was happening. That happens. I look at the driver of every car that's on the road when I'm driving to see if they even see me. You know, I got a four-way stop. You know that I'm here. But when someone's careening at your child or your wife or your husband or your grandmother, grandfather, whoever, you're going to look at that car and be like, dude, do they even know where they're at? Like, do they see the people in front of them? Are they looking the other way? You know? So, I mean, just saying that in this situation, you know what I mean? And look at that face, man. Like, that's a very punchable face. Just saying. You know what I mean? But this is when they were doing jury selection.
Fact that's her. I don't want that to end up being an issue. Is this some type of way that could be addressed by Your Honor?
Mr. Brooks, you had an opportunity to exercise preemptory strikes and even to question jurors about that. You chose not to. So at this point, any issue you have with that juror is waived.
Okay. You do remember that I was not present in the courtroom. I couldn't see. All I can see from that courtroom in there is just you, Your Honor, and the prosecution's table. I can't even see the bailiffs. So it was no way for me to even see who the jury was. Obviously, I wouldn't know them by name. If I would have been able to see the jurors, I would have immediately addressed that.
I will make this one indulgence. I'll have the civilian bailiff ask that juror if she was in attendance at your initial appearance out of an abundance of caution. These are jurors, though, who with the jury questionnaires were also asked what knowledge they had about proceedings they watched or even attended.
That's on him.
And no one, to my knowledge, has disclosed anything like that, but out of an abundance of caution, we will ask that juror if she was in attendance at your initial appearance. So for now, that's how I'll address it. I'll advise you of what her answer is.
Thank you, Connie.
Later.
So Connie says right here, they found that the person who flipped him off, they did find that there was a person who flipped him off and determined that there was a person who did that at the initial hearing, but the person on the jury was not that same person. It was two different people, so nobody on the jury flipped him off. That's what they found out. And I think that...
do you know the number of the jurors, sir? They have numbers.
I just know I can't see the number from here. I just know the chair she was sitting in.
Which chair, sir? Top row or the top or the bottom row?
The bottom row, the last black chair.
It's an aggressive point.
Black shirt. She had the black shirt.
The question I have for you is, how black is the shirt though? Like, is it a dark black or a light black? Like, could you? I mean, I need you to be more specific about the actual shade of that black and what level of pigment that shirt was specifically. If you could, please, sir.
All black chairs, sir. So
the last.
This guy, man, that lady right there. And it's funny because you got these people in the stand that are having to like pander to this nonsense of him being, who is, do you even know is Darrell Brooks guy? You know, like when they can't just be like him right there, you, the guy sitting there, that you, that guy, that's you. I saw you driving the car that hit people. I saw you wide-eyed at the gas station when you came the wrong way down a one-way. I saw you careening through the crowd. You personally, like that guy. I didn't see someone that looked like you. I didn't see someone of a similar description. No, I saw you because I saw you, and now I'm seeing you. And those two are connected because of the way that you see things. Just saying. He was wrong about this one. Apparently, he just said he couldn't see them in the first place. So, curious about that. But where we're at now is the fact that you can point someone out, but yeah, that's the guy. How do you know? Because I saw the guy. How do you know you saw that guy? Because that's the guy I saw. You know what I mean? It's a redundant situation, man. But the way that he's like that, it was him, her. That's exactly where I think every single person sitting on the jury stand or the witness stand needs to just go ahead and just straight up aggressively point just like that. Just aggressive. You. It was you that I saw driving. It was you, sir. You, Brooks. You, Darrell. Whatever you want to call yourself, Citizen Zero, whatever, or, Sovereign 17. I don't know. But they did, however, deem that the person that he saw flip him off apparently isn't the same person that's on the jury. So it doesn't stand as an issue. There you go. So he's in the clear on that one. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Sir, did you see anybody? Yeah. Did you see anybody else in a black shirt? I mean, the way he's going about his questions and his whole commentary, his whole narrative is ridiculous. But yeah, so he had an opportunity.
That's black chair closest to the television.
Thank you, sir, because there are two sides, right? So it's the last chair on both sides. So I wanted to make clear. You're saying the chair closest to the television. Thank you.
I love that he's getting frustrated at the judge.
Front row, closest to the television. Thank you.
I said that at the beginning, Your Honor.
Front row.
It's hilarious that her questioning him and having him point out a point is frustrating him so much when all these people that he questions have said that multiple times. Every question he asks, they've already answered multiple times. And he still is like reiterating the question and hoping that he'll get a different answer, but they keep saying like, that's what I already said, what I said. And there's an objection called asked and answered, which means that you can't just keep re-asking the same questions, badgering basically at that point. So, I mean, did somebody flip him off? Apparently, was it aggressive and enough to throw the case out? No. And did he have an opportunity to, from that point, go ahead and leverage some kind of objection? Yes. And then he had a valid point, apparently, that he couldn't see the jury or whomever it was initially. But at the end of the day, he's exactly where he's at because of what he did. So I'm not going to give him any more than he's got. But one of the things we have seen is there's a quick video here I'm going to pull up about is there a motive behind his change in demeanor? And this is from yesterday. I want to see what that's all about. And because he has, he's gone from, we just saw him in his orange, right, which he refused to sit at one point. He refused to put on street clothes because for one of the reasons he said was that he wanted to wait till he got his COVID test back before he put on his nice clothes. He was very like, before I get dressed up, kind of pandering to the judge. And so now COVID test came back negative. He's in a suit, and let's see what his overall demeanor is as it changes here throughout the course of the trial.
An apology in the Darrell Brooks trial today. Brooks accused of driving through the Waukesha Christmas Parade last year, killing 6 people, injuring dozens more. Well, today he stood up and spent nearly 2 minutes apologizing for his past behavior in the courtroom. The jury was not in the courtroom at the time. We also heard from victims today as they testified about being hit during the parade. The Waukesha County District Attorney says they expect to rest their case Thursday or maybe Friday morning. Now, joining us more to talk about what happened today is attorney Julius Kim from the law group Kim and Lavoie. Let's start with this 180 on Brooks's demeanor. Starts with the apology, and then his questioning has been measured in all communications. What do you make of it?
Boy, it's hard to figure out what Darrell Brooks is up to right now. The apology was a little surprising given how erratic he was last week, but I almost got the impression that someone talked to him over the weekend, a loved one, his mother, I don't know, and told him, listen, you need to conduct yourself a little bit better in court if you stand to have any chance here in properly defending yourself.
Well, to confirm that, his mother told Mary in an interview just last week, she's told him to stop with the antics. So you might be spot on that one. Now to his style of questioning, it seems like he's trying to plant a little doubt in the testimony of each witness. Brett Lemoyne mentioned he asked each one, did you hear a car horn or not? And they weren't quite sure. Are you surprised with his presentation?
I am a little surprised with the way he's been questioning witnesses, in all honesty. He's actually doing a pretty nice job, given the fact that he doesn't have any formal legal training. As far as him asking that question about whether people have heard a car horn, I think one of the earlier witnesses, perhaps a police officer, mentioned the fact that he did hear a car horn. And I think what Mr. Brooks is trying to do is establish this notion of intent, that he didn't intend to kill these people, that if he's honking his horn while he's going through this crowd, he's not indiscriminately hitting people with the intent to do so. So I that's what he's trying to do, but we'll see as the trial progresses if that's the way this shakes out.
And finally, the judge here, Judge Darrell, wanting to keep the case moving, but also very careful not to leave any grounds for a mistrial or appeal. How do you rate how she's navigating through all of this?
That's a good question.
Well, I know Judge Darrell pretty well, so I have to be careful here, but Judge Darrell, in my opinion, is doing a great job. Clearly, the beginning of this trial was a little rough. No one knew what to expect, but I think she's done a really good job of keeping Mr. Brooks reined in, protecting the record, making sure that if convicted, Mr. Brooks' case would stand up to appeal.
Even going to the point to say, we're going to help you fill out your subpoenas correctly, just making sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed, it seems.
That's right. And quite frankly, the state has even offered to serve those subpoenas on behalf of Mr. Brooks. So the judge and the state clearly understand and appreciate the notion that this record needs to be protected if there are convictions here, and they need to do what they can to try and make it look like Mr. Brooks had a fair trial in this case, and to, in fact, give him a fair trial.
They're back at it tomorrow. News will happen, and you will help us analyze it. Julius Kim, thanks. Stay with Fox 6 for the latest from the trial. We're streaming it on fox6now.com and the Fox 6 News YouTube page, as well as our.
So yeah, he's what they're saying is that they have to cross their T's and dot their I's. They got to make sure that there's no room for him to find any grounds for a mistrial in any way, shape, or form, which is infuriating because it's all right there. It's blatant evidence. It's not a situation where they have to dig deeper to figure this out. This isn't like an ongoing court investigation where they're really trying to figure out the mystery of it all. This isn't like a freaking Scooby-Doo episode of like who done it. We know who did it. We know he did it. He's trying to mitigate his charges. Good luck. Like I said before, he's got 6 life sentences in over 900 years. All of that, if he gets hit with everything, and that's not including the felony batteries and bail jumpings. But just for and I'll put it up here for anyone that wasn't here earlier. The charges that he's facing right now are 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, 61 counts of recklessly endangering safety, 6 counts of hit and run involving death, 2 counts of felony bail jumping, and 2 counts of battery. Now, the downward plea, I guess, if you will, 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide would be 6 counts of reckless homicide, and I think each one of those faces up to 25 years in prison. So, I mean, the guy is already looking at 150 years from that. You know what I mean? Let that stick. Even if they and it's tough, man, because I know, like, in the case, like, I got in a situation about 10 years ago. I got stopped in the mugging in Seattle, and I got stabbed several times, and in the stomach. And it wasn't like an accidental cut. It was like 5 stab wounds into the liver. And when that happened, the detective in the case, when they were doing the investigation, one thing I asked him, I was like, well, are you going for attempted murder? And the thing that he made clear to me at that time was that the attempted murder might not stick, but assault with a deadly weapon will stick. And then with the other charges, they'll be able to leverage the maximum adherent charges. So things that will actually stick, that'll adhere to this case. So at first I was a little upset. I'm like, but he tried to kill me. And then I had to think about it. I was like, well, I don't know what his mindset was. Was he actually trying to kill me, or just trying to stop me from, like, punching his buddies that were attacking this other guy and beating them off, beating them up, or while they were trying to beat me up, whatever, the whole fight that happened while I was pulling this guy out who was unconscious that they were trying to rob. Long story short, no, I'm gonna hit that soundbite later. I didn't know you guys, but all of the charges that he mentioned stuck. The attempted or the assault with a deadly weapon. When they had him on all these armed robbery, it was because they did take my vest. They had ripped my vest off me. I tackled one of the guys, and it had, like, my phone in it and my car keys. So they had all these different charges. I can't remember exactly. They all stacked up, and they all went through. And so it was this, like 25 years sentence. But there's multiple other people that were assaulted that night as well by the same gang of people, this gang from Somalia. And so I understand that aspect of it. They have to get charges that'll stick. But the downward mobility on that is for reckless, as it says here, recklessly endangering safety. 61 counts of that. And I think each one of those can face up to 12 and a half years. At 61 counts of recklessly endangering safety. So even if they don't get the first degree intentional homicide, that he went out trying to kill those people, if they get reckless homicide, that might stick. If those don't stick, 6 counts of hit and run involving death. Now then they have to prove that he knew somebody was injured or was mortally wounded. I believe that's part of the letter of the law for that, and we'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's how they spelled it out. And that's a tough one too, because he's not looking in his rear view; he's looking forward the whole time. But 61 counts of recklessly endangering safety, when you're driving through a crowd of people and you're hitting people, and you've blown through barricades, you're speeding at a high rate. Even if all of those stick, hey Google, what's 61 times 12.5?
61 times 12.5 is 762.5.
Thank you. It's over 760 years he's looking at for the reckless endangerment. And I mean, if we can't be sure about anything, we can definitely be sure about that he recklessly endangered these people. So as he's defending himself, But again, the charges for him right now, I really don't believe. I think they're secondary to the case. The jury, I don't think even matters to him because, like I said before, I feel like he's looked past the jury. He's looked past his innocence or guilt. He knows he's guilty. He knows he's going to get found guilty. He's at a point now where he's positioning himself for the next phase, which is going to be the appeal, right? He's going to go for a motion of appeal, and he's going to do what he can do while he's spending life in prison to appeal this as best he can. And he's looking for any little crack he can so that over the next 6 life sentences and 900 plus years that he's facing, he has a chance to pick one of those apart, pull that thread, and maybe find some way to get the case dismissed or the case thrown out. But I can't imagine there ever being a situation where anybody would find, and see, this is the hard part about an appeal situation like that, is the grounds for the appeal. It doesn't go back to the relevance of guilt or innocence. It's about the proceedings of the trial. So as this trial proceeds, there's a whole bunch of official tape that has to be cut. You know, they have to go through so much of it to make sure that there's absolutely no room for error. There's no gap in the game. You know, they have to keep the hustle 100% solid. And I'm understanding this better as we go, and I'm very, emotionally fused to this, as so many people are after seeing the actual. I wasn't there when it happened, but being there directly after and talking to people and meeting family members and going to that memorial in Waukesha. I mean, having that sink into you, it's hard not to let yourself become emotionally charged when even looking at this guy. But and so the frustration comes in for the exasperated aspect of his approach and what's being allowed to run and his questioning and things of that nature. And they were really quick to object early on. I think now they're just kind of letting him talk himself in because the witnesses' statements, I believe, are speaking more to the point than anything could possibly. So really, he's at a point where he's pandering to the TV. I think 100% right now. He's just pandering to the TV. You know, the random YouTube pool said 95% guilty. So yeah, he's done. So yeah, 95% guilty. So, I mean, that's a panel of peers. You know, just saying. It's just, if we go into YouTube, maybe I'll put one up on my page here as well. Let me see. And Mark Seiler says, question: since when is the defendant in a multiple murder trial allowed to protect himself from being positively identified by covering most of his face with a mask? If you were some guy on trial for multiple burglaries and the prosecution had a dozen eyewitnesses lined up who could positively ID you as the perpetrator, I highly doubt the judge would allow you to hide your identity by hiding your face. Hell, she might as well allow him to wear a Halloween mask the entire time. Yeah, Mark, I hear what you're saying there. And I think one of the things that they have done is when he when they do ask the witnesses to identify him, they make him take his mask off to pull it down, to point out the person in question if they're in the courtroom, and then they ask them to pull his mask down. So they are doing that. But you're right, though. It adds an element of barrier between him and, reality. Like, all right, cool, I'm not really here. And it's that whole alter ego, Cindy says he can spend those years in his cell with other ego like the soccer ball Wilson. Yeah, he can decorate up a roll of toilet paper, make it his best friend, whatever he wants to do. But that multiple person, who knows what, we don't know yet. And I'm really curious to find out what his defense is going to be, Mary Lou Gordon says, but the one lady was on the hood and only time that I heard someone seeing brake lights, so the lady slid off. So he hit somebody, they were on the hood, and then to get her off the hood, he hit the brakes. So he can continue to drive through the crowd, that kind of thing. The parents, yeah, major kudos to the parents, man. And the judge, I get it, I was giving her a lot of grief, but I didn't appreciate her giving him the attaboys. But I do understand that she has to keep her cool in the process, because there's definitely a fine line between a mistrial and and allowing an appeal to go through. So I get it. It's messed up, but I get it, and none of us are happy to see him actually. I don't even like hearing him talk, it's just frustrating to hear him speak, Either way, oh, sorry, I didn't yell that. So either way, this is so his sovereign claim, right, is that he is, you know, a sovereign citizen, and he by that he doesn't feel like he's held up to the court standards because he doesn't respect the courts as presiding over him. That being said, here I'm going to show you guys some of the other sovereign citizens that have presented themselves to the courts, and just take a look at how these have gone for them. You know, so and sorry, it's a little bit of a process. I'm running off one. I don't have my normal slide side to side. Can people find the video of the parade? Yeah, while we're looking at this, I'll pull that up, I guess.
We're in Placerville, California, for the arraignment of 39-year-old Asher Edwards.
Hello, Judge.
Good afternoon, sir.
Edwards' demeanor may seem pleasant, but just a few days earlier, his alleged behavior was anything but. He was charged with making terrorist threats, assault with a deadly weapon, and obstructing peace officers after a domestic disturbance escalated into a 2-day police standoff.
Mr. Edwards, this is the time and place set for your arraignment. Do you consent to have an arraignment by video conference?
Sir, is this an Maritime Admiralty Law courtroom that we're processing me through?
No, it's not.
Edwards considers himself a sovereign citizen who lives as a free man, as they like to say, under common law as established by the Founding Fathers. Maritime Admiralty Law that he's referencing is the law of the sea and international commerce, a body of law that sovereign citizens believe to be the foundation of the country's modern legal system, which they reject.
This is not a Maritime Admiralty Law courtroom. I believe so.
No.
Absolutely, it is. All courtrooms in this country are Maritime Admiralty Law courtrooms that process people, aren't they?
No, sir.
That's false information. Well, either way, this courtroom is trying to process me as state property. See this fictitious name statement? Asher Edwards, spelled in all capital letters? This is not my name.
That's what Darrell Brooks
Edwards
said.
is referring
Darrell
to
Brooks is
another sovereign belief that beginning at birth, one is issued a government identity, meaning.
And that's what Darrell Brooks said when they called him Darrell Brooks Jr. He said, "I don't identify as Darrell Brooks Jr. I don't know who that person is."
One's name is spelled in all capital letters, such as on a birth certificate or social security card, and that doesn't represent one's true or free self.
This name was issued to me without my consent, and you cannot legally process me through this courtroom with this without this name in all capital letters that was issued without my consent. My name is spelled Asher Edwards, first capital, all lowercase, Edwards, first capital, all lowercase. And this is the birth name given to me by my parents, protected by the Constitution of the United States.
Even as Edwards grows louder and more animated, the judge appears to take it all in stride and even allows the defendant to finish his rant.
Therefore, it is illegal for you to process me through this courtroom, so you guys have to figure out something else to do with it.
But this judge is all business, so figuring out something else to do with Edwards is not in his plans.
Court will enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. Will show time is not waived. We'll set this matter for pre-preliminary hearing within the statutory period.
And I would like to see the gun. It said I had a gun. I've never had a gun.
As Edwards continues his rant about the alleged gun, the judge reaches for his own weapon of choice, the mute button.
Do not speak while I am speaking, sir.
Edwards continues to plead his case, but to no avail.
Court will set bail in the amount of $72,500. Next matter.
Asher Edwards would later be found guilty of all the charges and sentenced to 1 year in prison. Next, we go to a bond hearing in Broward County, Judge John Hurley presiding. The defendant is David Hall, a sovereign citizen who basically believes that certain laws don't apply to him.
Mr. Hall has declined the services of the public defender, Your Honor.
Hall is here for driving under the influence and driving with a suspended license.
Mr. Hall, DUI, expired driver's license.
Good morning, Judge.
As soon as the judge attempts to read the charges, Hall begins interrupting.
Sir, I haven't said for the court how I'm appearing today,
Well,
sir.
I'm not asking you yet. Just give me a moment, all right? I need to look at your record.
Turns out Hall is currently out on bond for 2 previous charges of driving with a suspended license. But that's not going to stop him from trying to make his case.
Sir, today I'm appearing as the agent and settler for David Hall.
Okay. Okay. Could you get Mr. Hall for me then, sir? Where is he?
I go by that name, sir. My name sounds exactly like the defendant's, and I'm here to settle that matter today.
So are you and David Hall one and the same person?
I'm not a person, I'm an individual. David Hall is a person. I am a private individual.
Hall's legalese is unconventional, to say the least. But
The judge said-
allows him to continue.
May I say something else for the record, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
I appear here today as the settler, agent, not the person, but the individual. And I don't think I should. You understand the
So you're
difference
the
between a
settler,
person and an
you're the
individual.
agent, and you're the individual, but you're not the person. Is that correct?
Correct.
We got a real Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost situation going on right now. Just saying.
Correct.
I'm going to write that down.
Judge Hurley is unfazed by Hall's attempt at a Jedi mind trick and begins to turn the tables.
Here's what we're going to do. The settler, the agent, the individual, and maybe even the person, David Hall, has been charged with DUI. So today, the court's going to set the settler, the agent, the individual's bond, and even the person's bond today at $10,000 because the settler, the agent, the individual, and the person continues to drive without a driver's license.
Hall's new bond is $10,000, but because this charge is a violation of his original bond, all versions of David Hall must remain in jail unless he can come up with the cash.
Both cases will cause the settler, the agent, the individual, and even the person, David Hall, not to be able to be released from the Broward County Jail until further notice of the court. So,
May I post bond, sir?
Now it's Judge Hurley's turn to have some fun.
well,
Is there any other?
Are you asking me as the settler, the agent, the individual, or are you
Right?
asking
It's a real
as the
who's on
person?
first situation.
Sir, I'm asking, as the individual appearing before you today, the opportunity.
Who are you speaking on behalf of right now?
Who are you speaking on behalf of?
Sir, I don't understand that question. I believe that you're trying to confuse me now. I'm not the person, sir.
Okay,
I am
you
not
see the person,
person.
David Hall. Tell him he's not leaving jail either, all right? Have a nice day. Thank you.
He said when you see that person, tell him he's not leaving jail either. Someone said earlier that they're looking forward to Darrell Brooks calling Darrell Brooks to the stand, or sorry, the person, the individual representing Darrell Brooks, who has the same sounding name, to the stand is what they're talking about, and then questioning himself, which would be amazing. And I pray, please let it happen. Please let it happen. I mean, if anything, give us that element of comedy that we can appreciate this with, through the severity and the real dark nature of what this case is about. But like I said, and I apologize to people, but I do make jokes because it's how I process. But that's how I get through things. I appreciate you rolling with me. But please let him put himself on the stand and question himself, because yeah, man, can you imagine how much fun that would be just to watch this fool? And then I guarantee he'd object, sustain, and then deny objections along the whole process himself. He would object and withdraw objections, man. But he's got a game plan, you know what I mean? But Darrell Brooks, you're right, isn't his name? Yeah, is he going to run from the stand to the to the excuse me, from his defense booth or his defense desk to the stand and back and forth, back and forth? I mean, I would hope it would add element of comedy to it that I would love to see, because and I can't wait for him to just say that the witness is being combative. Objection, Your Honor, this witness is being combative and argumentative. I object to that objection. The question should stand because it's meant for grounds of understanding, and that's hearsay. And just hear all the random BS this guy says. But man, yeah. Like, just move. He's like, so you're saying that didn't work? I wore my best rat tail
Next, we're
to
at the
court,
Cheshire
and that didn't
County
work?
Courthouse in Keene, New Hampshire. Court is currently in recess, but there is trouble brewing in the gallery.
Trouble brewing.
Take the hat off.
The judge asked this man, Bo Davis, to remove his hat or leave. Otherwise, he could be charged with contempt of court. But Davis refuses.
So I have force threatened upon me if I were to wear a hat.
Davis and some others seated around him are associated with a New Hampshire-based anti-government movement. They're here to support a fellow member who's the defendant in a, quote, right to travel case that's in recess. These so-called sovereign citizens claim to be pushing back against what they consider overreach in the criminal justice system. And they're not afraid to get vocal about it.
I think you misunderstood. It's the judge's authority when he comes back. If at that point he says he's in contempt, then you have the authority.
There's been an issue. Your choice is take the hat off. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. I can't. You're making threats.
After more back and forth with Davis and relentless commentary from others in the gallery,
what's the matter with you guys, huh?
the bailiff is finally done discussing the matter.
Sir, treat others as you would wish to place. I'm being nice. Or I'm not going to assist in my own arrest. I don't want you to take your hands off that man. Please stand up.
A second bailiff comes to help escort Davis out, but again, he refuses to stand.
I'm not going to assist in my own arrest. I'm not asking you to assist. Please do not hurt.
Instead of dragging Davis out of the courtroom, the bailiffs use a wheelchair.
Just leave people alone now.
As Davis is wheeled out, the group continues to insult the bailiffs.
Ever considered like a real job? One where you don't use violence against people?
No.
Despite their protests, the court has authority to make rules about conduct in the courtroom. So a short time later, the judge...
This is just got another couple minutes, 2 minutes. But and I appreciate whoever put in the comment about this documentary from 2007. It was a short documentary, short film about methamphetamine use and addiction. And as it turns out, our guy Darrell Brooks is in it, which is wild. So I'm going to show you guys not the full documentary, but I just was looking through it and I found that I haven't looked at it yet, so it'll be first for both of us. But the clip where he's in. Actually, let's just jump into that right now. These are not to say that they're not fun to watch for some of them, but I think that we watch it. We can look at something else here. Cindy, you're great. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Don't worry about it. Any contributions, guys, that you make to the show, to me, are greatly appreciated. Super chats, super stickers, all of that. They all, it all helps me, pay the bills. So thank you guys for helping me continue to do what I'm doing here with you. So I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and this one here, we're going to go ahead and show you guys this documentary. So it's called Crystal Darkness. It's from 2007. And I want to give you a little bit more background on it. So it's this, let me add this to the 1 second. Crystal Darkness is 2007 release date in the United States here. It's a 30-minute documentary film on the dangers and prevalence of the drug methamphetamine. The film features testimonies of young people who have gone through meth addiction, as well as interviews with high-profile politicians and law enforcement officials. So we're not going to watch all of this, but I do want to pull up this video and give you guys a chance to see what I'm talking about here. And Darrell Brooks is in said video. So there we go. Throw this up here for you. Boom. And I'll say here. We're going to go back just about a little bit here, give you an idea of what we're watching. There we go. just for some understanding here. Yeah.
All by myself because the person that I was with was out trying to score so that we could get high. And I was cutting my wrists, and I just thought, you know, what do you do when you're done?
So, mind you, again, sorry. This is a documentary that was made. Darrell Brooks he's in this at one point.
According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, a growing amount of the meth provided to the region is manufactured in major production facilities in Mexico, as well as through clandestine laboratories in the Central Valley of California. In these makeshift cookhouses, the drug is made through a chemical process which can use a variety of highly toxic substances. Meth can be introduced to the bloodstream through different ways, including snorting, intake of pills, being smoked, or through needles. It travels to the brain and creates an intense rush that can last many hours. The rush is caused by a sharp increase in the amount of dopamine produced by the brain's neurotransmitters. Dopamine is what creates the sensation of pleasure. The pursuit of a quick fix comes at a tremendous cost. Over time, meth begins to destroy the brain's pleasure receptors, rapidly reducing the effect of the drug. Worse yet, as these receptors shut down, it becomes difficult for the meth user to enjoy pleasure at all. The result is depression, despair, and a continual need to get high over and over again. The drug is now firmly in control.
Meth mouth describes a very aggressive form of decay in the mouth. Methamphetamines has a tendency to cause the saliva flow in the mouth to decrease, which will in turn increase the acid level or decrease the pH in the mouth, which makes the normal plaque very aggressive and starts to break down the enamel at a much higher rate than we see naturally.
I had met people who had no cartilage in their nose because it had eaten complete, like they could stick their finger through their nose because it had eaten the cartilage away. I had met people who had holes in the top of their mouth because the meth had eaten down.
If they would come up and say, here's battery acid, Drano, and cat litter, and you're going to look 20 years older, you're going to have rotten teeth, that's truth in advertising.
I've seen in the drug court where a beautiful young lady will end up looking like an old lady with no teeth, with pockmarks all over her.
You know, one hit, what's that going to do to me? But then you look at these guys that I've met that are probably 24 years old, that started when they're 12 years old, and they look like they're 50 years old.
It's very hard on the body. It's very hard on the heart, and it's extremely hard on the brain. And you can see it outwardly, but it's also devastating inwardly.
Real talk. Someone, I think on YouTube said, anyone here? Yeah, I was addicted to drugs for 7 years, almost 8 years. And it almost killed me. It should have killed me. But I made it out through the grace of God and through, the love of, family and people that were willing to stand by me. But took me down some really dark roads, took me to some really bad places and met some really interesting individuals, but I definitely went down that rabbit hole of drug addiction, and it was terrible. It was a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So the relevance of this documentary is very true. But to answer your question, yeah. But this one, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about my past and the struggles that I've gone through. We're talking about Darrell Brooks and his involvement in this documentary, which is about to pop up here. So Darrell conducted this interview from jail. Okay.
I didn't think about, I got this beautiful kid who's going without my time. I thought I would just be this wonderful father, just be the greatest dad ever. The vision is just like, I'm gonna give him everything that I didn't have. But then it's like reality set in. You actually become the drug, not even a human being.
This is Darrell Brooks. Darrell Brooks drove his car through a crowd, killing 6 people, injuring dozens of others. I just need to reiterate this one more time because he's making an emotional line about being the father that he wants to be, to raising this beautiful child, this beautiful baby, this little boy, giving him everything he never had, about giving him a life that he deserves, and not the life that Darrell Brooks is living, right? Like that's the line he's on right now. That's what he's saying. We all would want that. Any person would want that for your children. Any human being would want that for all children, right? I mean, any normal individual would say, yeah, I want the best tomorrow for our kids today. Absolutely. But you watch this and you think about the fact that he killed an 8-year-old little boy with his car after hitting dozens of other people, kept driving and still killed 6 people and almost mortally wounded dozens of others that they're going to suffer lifelong injuries, But previously in his life, he was aware, coherently, that he wanted to give a better life to his child, right? At some point, man, I would hope that somebody gives him on a tablet, lets him sit down and watch this, and remember that at one point, like, he actually gave a shit. At one point, back in 2007, 15 years ago, there was a point where he actually wanted people, to do better. He wanted to do better, and just stop, man. Just stop. Accept the fact that you did something horrific, man, and stop. Your son, however old he is now, 17 years later, you know what I mean? However old he was at the time, grown man, was watching this happen, watching you go through this. He's not celebrating you like, oh, that's my dad, man. Look at him on TV. Look how swagged out he is. He's doing so good. Look at him, like, questioning these cops, these crooked cops, And that's not the demeanor of that child right now. That kid's probably sitting down saying, man, what life were you hoping to give me when you're taking other people's away from them? You know what I mean? We got to break that cycle, but it's sad to see that this individual never did and ended up, doing what he did, and now breaking other people's families and their lives. So anyway, I'll see what else he has to say here. So keep going.
Basically, that's how I felt. Like I wasn't a human anymore. I was just something vile, disgusting, despicable. I could go on. I could use a lot of words, but that's what I became. It's really what I became.
Well, he just, man. I'm going to rewind that real quick. Just listen to what he just says, and if that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what does.
Something. I was just something vile, disgusting, despicable. I could go on. I could use a lot of words, but that's what I became. It's really what I became.
I mean, how much argument can you give him on that one? You know what I mean? How much can you? I mean, he's saying it right there. That's what I became. I became this vile, disgusting human being. I became this person, and it is what it is. It's you either stave the plug the dam, change your course, directionally go somewhere else, whatever it might be, but we can see the progression. I mean, look at this. This is 2007. This is Darrell Brooks in 2007. And then here we are in 2022, and you've got him sitting on trial for a mass murder, 6 people dead, I think that's a perfect place for us to go ahead and wrap today. I'm not trying to keep everybody on. I'm going to post the link in the comments. I don't know if that'll work, but that's a link to that documentary. It's in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Definitely check it out. Watch for yourself. The entirety of the thing, I'm sure, would be informational, educational. It's a quick video. I think it's like 28 minutes, so it's not that long. But this is Darrell Brooks in that video. So you're welcome for this. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad to be here with you guys, man. Like, I really appreciate you guys letting me jump in and be a part of, part of this, your day with you. I really do. I do enjoy what I do. I enjoy doing it with you. I enjoy the comments, the feedback. It really does kind of help me put a little better understanding on things that are happening in the world, as going through it with you guys, and getting your involvement and my personal quest to better understand what's going on. I think that we're going to be on this case for a while, so I would hope that you guys will tune in with me again tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we're going to be back, and we'll be viewing. Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad I got through the addiction and the stabbings as well. It's been a long road. But taking a look at things, and again, for whoever gave me the dropped in the info on the documentary, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And again, that's called Dark. What is it called? It's in here somewhere. But the documentary is called Crystal Darkness from 2007, and the link is in the comments. Yeah, man, powerful stuff. But this case is going to go on for a little bit longer. I mean, we still have some time. He hasn't even presented his side of it yet, so I appreciate you guys tuning in. I really ask that you would please share the stream, share it out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you happen to be on. I don't mind saying it, but you guys know that I'm a independent, and what I do is generated by you, the viewer. So all contributions, everyone that's made contributions, be it super chats, super stickers, stars, you guys, that all makes a huge difference. Becoming a subscriber on Facebook, that also makes a huge difference as well. It helps me kind of forward plan where I'm going to be and what I'm going to do, how I'm going to be able to get there, and what I'm going to be able to cover. We're moving into some election time now, and I definitely want to be able to stay on the move, and maintain my mobility to be able to give you guys coverage like I have been for the last couple of years. I'd really like to give you better coverage, to give you deeper, more involved look at things that I find intriguing and interesting, and I think you might as well. So stick with me, set up the like and subscribe, that whole smash the like button, subscribe to all videos on YouTube, and go ahead and subscribe to all notifications on Facebook. Yeah, I'm an independent citizen. Yeah. You guys, we're going to get through this together, and I want to make that clear. There's going to be a lot of things we're going to be looking at in the coming year, and we're going to do it together. I think it's important we do it together. We're going to have an opportunity to get some closure. We're going to have an opportunity to kind of help each other through it. And I got to tell you how much I appreciate the comment sections. You guys have been incredibly respectful and insightful. I'm going to give you all the accolades the judge gave Darrell Brooks here today. You've done an incredible job of helping keep the stream alive, and that's really what this is. It's not just me; it's us. We're in here together, making this as our community. And I really love you guys for being here, and I appreciate you being a part of it and helping make this grow the way it has. Even though it has been through some tragedy and some really hard times, you guys have definitely been there to help me fall back on and to lean on. So I'll be back more often. I can promise you that. To the mods that are rolling, everyone else that's jumped in, thank you so much. I know I haven't been around a lot, but we're going to be back at it doing what we do. So much love, you guys. Like, share, and subscribe, and become a supporter on Facebook. They mean a lot. It's a cost of a basic cup of coffee at this point, $4.99 a month, but it'll give you countless hours of entertainment moving forward, and we'll be doing a lot of individual breakout sessions in the supporter groups for some Zoom calls where we'll be able to talk to each other one-on-one. Look forward to that this week. Not today, like I said, I've been traveling the last couple of days trying to get from Wisconsin to Washington, and handling some stuff here with the family. So yeah, I'm padding us. I'm just trying to avoid a retrial on myself here. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me and navigating through things. I had to reset up, the whole situation here. It's a process. It's a whole process. But much love, you guys. I'm gonna sign off. Send you guys out with this the shock phoenix, as we call it. It was a beautiful little send off. But I love y'all, and I again appreciate you being here. We'll see you soon. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to email me at cj@cjtv.live. That's cj@cjtv.live. If you have anybody of interest that you feel would make for a good interview, hit me up. And I need contact info and maybe the connection so that I can get a referral, or maybe you just refer them and have them reach out to me. It doesn't matter. Be a cardiologist or a cobbler. I don't care. People that have, everyone's got a story to tell, and I'd love to just talk to anybody. And we're going to start working on establishing some common grounds in life here. So if you know anybody, think of anybody, hit me up. And the best way to do that, email me, cj@cjtv.live. Real simple stuff. Love you guys. I will see you tomorrow.